This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. The Prime Minister to meet with the medical community on the state of emergency. Just how much longer will it be in place? Medical marijuana bill being finalized, according to the Attorney General. And the opposition leader says the government is trying to silence the opposition. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Friday, May 7th, 2021. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Stephen Hanna will be joining us. Also this morning, more on conch poisoning, what you need to know to protect yourselves. And the Salvation Army is celebrating 90 years in the Bahamas. We'll talk to them about that milestone. Plus, in Morning Blend Business, we are analyzing the government's fiscal snapshot for the first 9 months of the fiscal year. It's all straight ahead, but first, it's time for the Overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, Prime Minister Dr. Jimenez will meet with members of the medical community for their advice and will later decide the way forward on the state of emergency. That's set to expire on May 23rd. That's according to Attorney General Carl Bethel. The Bahamas is experiencing a third wave of COVID-19. There have been 10,711 COVID-19 cases recorded since March 2020, and there have been more than 200 confirmed deaths. The AG saying the government is prepared to do whatever's necessary to protect Bahamians during the pandemic, but he says Cabinet has not made a determination on the matter as yet. Bethel previously said the government can deal with pandemics through ordinary legislation. Last October, he said the government was drafting a medical emergency bill. The Attorney General also defended the Prime Minister in his role as competent authority, stating that he engages in consultation before any decisions are made. The first state of emergency was declared in March 2020, shortly after the Bahamas recorded its first case of COVID-19. And following consultation with the Bahamas Christian Council, various medical professionals, and Bahamians in the cannabis business abroad, Attorney General Bethel saying that he expects to submit a redrafted medical marijuana bill to a cabinet subcommittee for review this weekend. Once the committee reads through the new draft, Bethel says that he may present the bill to cabinet for final approval either next week or the following week. The decision by Deputy Speaker of the House, Don Saunders, to order the Sergeant-at-Arms to remove opposition Philip Brave Davis from the House was, quote, clearly over the top. That's according to Davis. He told the NASA Guardian this yesterday. Saunders ordered Davis out after he refused to stand down and instead insisted on defending Engliston MP Glenys Hannah Martin, who was being chastised by the Deputy Speaker as she attempted to make a point of order. The opposition leader telling the Nassau Guardian that he was simply trying to be heard and to point out that the Speaker was supposed to protect members and to be the referee in debates between members of the House. He said it was not his role to get involved in the fray, and he thought that he was getting involved when he started to chastise a member for Engliston and wanted to correct him and to stop him from doing that. You can read more about his comments in today's Nassau Guardian. Davis also saying he was not consulted on the appointment of the Information Commissioner, as is required by the Freedom of Information Act. On Sunday, the Attorney General announced that retired Supreme Court Justice Keith Thompson was appointed Information Commissioner, and former Assistant Director of Legal Affairs Shane Miller was appointed Deputy Commissioner. The appointments represented the administration's first substantial move in over 2 years towards the long-awaited full enactment of FOIA. Overseas, a bloody hours-long gun battle in a Rio de Janeiro slum in Brazil, echoing to this morning, with authorities saying the police mission successfully eliminated 24 criminals, while residents and activists are claiming human rights abuses. It was just after sunrise Thursday when dozens of officers from Rio de Janeiro state civil police stormed the slum, a working-class favela in the city's northern zone. They were targeting drug traffickers from one of Brazil's most notorious criminal organizations, Comando Vermelho, and the bodies piled up quickly. When the fighting stopped, there were 25 dead, 1 police officer, and 24 people described by the police as criminals. Rio's moniker can often seem a cruel irony, Marvelous City, that's the name, in the favelas given their stark poverty. The bloodshed also laid bare Brazil's perennial divide over whether, as a common local saying goes, a good criminal is a dead criminal. Fervent law and order sentiment fueled the successful presidential run in 2018 by Jair Bolsonaro, a former army captain whose home is Rio. He drew support from much of society with his calls to diminish legal constraints of officers' use of lethal force against criminals. And countries worldwide wrestling with new coronavirus surges are trying to ensure they aren't hit by an India-style disaster. They face many of the same risks, including large populations that have shirked restrictions and fragile health systems shaken under the strain. In Egypt, hospitals have been flooded with COVID-19 patients, a main hotspot in a third spike swelling across the country. Doctors in one province warned the health system that it could collapse, warned that the health system could collapse there even as the government rushes in new supplies. India and Brazil accounted for a large part of the surging cases over the last few months. India has been hit by a catastrophic surge of COVID-19 infections after its prime minister boasted of vanquishing the pandemic, and following multiple massive crowding events, new cases and deaths skyrocketed nearly 30-fold during March and April. The health system has been overwhelmed, leaving patients desperate for oxygen and other supplies. In Turkey, new cases are surging nearly 6-fold from the beginning of March, reaching a peak of more than 60,000 a day. The government imposing a 3-week national lockdown on April 29th, but exempted many sectors, allowing millions to keep going to work. In sports, Miami professional baseball player with Miami Marlins Jazz Chisholm back on the field, running, hitting, and working on defense. The promising infielder suffered a strained left hamstring while stealing second base in a game against the Milwaukee Brewers last week Tuesday. The Marlins lost that game 5-4 and went on to lose 3 of their next 4 games without Chisholm. Chisholm's regarded by StatCast and MLB.com as one of the most exciting young stars in the majors at this time, proving his worth in the first month of the regular season. He leads all Major League Baseball second baseman in on-base plus slugging percentage. It's tied with two others for the lead in the National League in stolen bases with 7, despite missing time. The new leadoff hitter for the Marlins is in a four-way tie for third in the majors in stolen bases. Read more in today's Guardian Sports section. That's sports. And that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your weather for today, a prefrontal trough along with its trailing frontal boundary is across the northwest Bahamas today, while a weakening ridge of high pressure is over the remaining islands. Mariners should be alert for possible waterspout activity near showers and thunderstorms. It's an interesting night for the extreme northwest Bahamas. Some storms coming in overnight. Conditions today for the northwest Bahamas, partly cloudy to cloudy, humid and hot with scattered showers and thunderstorms through tonight. Gusty winds and higher seas in or near showers and thunderstorms. Wind south to southwest at 10 to 15 knots ahead of the front, becoming west to northwest at 10 to 15 knots behind the front, with winds falling light and variable at times, seas 2 to 4 feet. For the central and southeast Bahamas, partly sunny, hot and humid with isolated showers. Showers and thunderstorms increasing in the central Bahamas tonight, becoming fair, warm, and mild, with an isolated shower across the southeast Bahamas tonight. Expect gusty winds and higher seas in showers and thunderstorms, especially in the central Bahamas tonight. Winds east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, falling light and variable at times in the central islands, seas 2 to 4 feet. Temperature-wise, right now in Nassau, it's about 76 degrees under fair skies. We're looking at highs getting up to around 90 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to 73 Fahrenheit, 23 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. More on that cold front coming up in your weekend outlook as we head into Mother's Day. That's coming up after traffic. It's time for a break, but when we come back, we are discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Gran, it was good to see you, but we've got to get home.
Yep, we've got to let the dog out.
Speaking of dogs, you won't believe who I saw the other day. Who?
Honey.
Remember Anton, Jeanette's oldest boy, the one with the dogs?
With local claims managers, we pay your motor claims fast. We're like a goodbye at your granny's that doesn't take 30 minutes.
and me,
we really got to get going.
So soon?
CG Atlantic Agents. Insurance, health, pensions, life. Good like that. That's Insurance Focused Agents Limited Trading with CG Atlantic Agents.
Technology serves to make our lives better, so why not your business too? At Custom Computers, we've been maintaining our knowledge and relationships with top tech companies since 1987 and carry only the most trusted brands like Apple, Microsoft, HP, and more. No company has helped more businesses build reliable IT systems than Custom Computers. You name it, we've done it. Call 396-1101 to talk to any of our business experts. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Wake up today. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. Also, your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796 on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC. Standard text rates apply. Coming up this morning, more weather and traffic. In a few minutes, we're going to be talking about conch poisoning. We know we've had a few cases, quite a few cases over the past few weeks. What you need to know over the next few weeks to protect yourselves. We'll talk about that and try to get an idea of what's happening exactly. Then later, the Salvation Army celebrating 90 years in the Bahamas. We'll talk about that anniversary. And in Morning Blend Business, we will have some analysis of the government's fiscal snapshot for the first 9 months of the fiscal year, the budget year. We'll talk about that and the performance and whether there are any real surprises in there. That's coming up. So a lot to get to this morning. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. We have Stephen Hanna with us. Yes? No? Stephen? It's coming? Okay. We're going to get Stephen in just a bit. But let's begin with what's in the news. And in the news, the big headline in the Nassau Guardian, I do not regret ordering Davis out. That's Deputy Speaker of the House Don Saunders, saying that had the Prime Minister behaved in the manner that the PLP leader had, he would have removed him or had him removed as well. You can read about that in today's Nassau Guardian. And you can read about Brave Davis saying that the government's trying to silence the opposition. Yeah, okay. While that's happening, we are all here wondering how long the emergency orders will be in place. And we were told yesterday that the Prime Minister will be meeting with the medical community about this to determine whether this is the way forward, whether this needs to continue. It's set to expire in a few weeks. For more on that, let's take a listen. Oh, we have Stephen now? Yep. All right. Good morning, Stephen. You're on.
I'm here.
Okay, there you go. Let's go with Taylor Ferguson, with the report from Taylor Ferguson. Take a listen to this report.
The Attorney General says the Prime Minister is set to meet with his team of medical professionals to decide on the way forward with the country's emergency orders. The current state of emergency expires on May 23rd, but Bethel says no decision has been made yet on what will happen next.
The Cabinet has not made a determination, and I raised the issue. Prime Minister indicated that he wishes to have some serious discussions within the medical community and get their advice. He's not prepared to commit to any particular course of action until he has done so. So I understand that sometime this week he'll probably be doing that, and we look forward to whatever the recommendations of the medical community are.
Bethel says although Bahamians know the protocols, guidance is still needed to ensure persons are protected from COVID-19, but he says there are other ways to do that.
All right, so that's what they're saying so far. There's more in today's Nassau Guardian about this. The Prime Minister says, well, he's according to AG Bethel, they're going to do whatever it takes to protect Bahamians. We do wonder, though, like he told us months ago, about the laws that they could pass that could accomplish much of what they're doing now. And he had said that he had drafted legislation. You remember that? drafting a medical emergency bill. And, okay, so what's happening with this? What's going on? But we will wait to see what happens. I know many people are wondering if this is going to continue. And should it continue? We are in the middle of a third wave, so something has to be done. Quite a few people over the past few weeks are saying that something should be done now. I'm sure many of those are the same people who were complaining about when there were some tighter restrictions in place. But, this is just how it goes, it seems. But what should happen? After he meets with the medical professionals, many of them feel that the restrictions are not tight enough right now, and they do recommend that. What should the Prime Minister do? I want to hear from you on that this morning. Continue with what we're doing right now, or tighten, or loosen. What say you? Tell us what you think. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. More people are getting vaccinated. More people are getting their lives back on track after a devastating 2020. What should be the way forward? As others were saying last year around this time, let what happen happen, let the chips fall where they may. Do we need that type of attitude? Or should we be observing what's happening around the world, places like India and other type countries, some of the countries that are facing devastating, catastrophic situations right now? What say you, Stephen Hanna? Are you there?
Yep. No, sorry. I was unmuting the mic. Listen, I've been one of the people saying that I don't like the idea of the emergency order, especially when there are things that can be done with regular legislation. All right, but I also don't think that they're going to give up so easily on power. Right? And as much as the two stories seem unrelated, Don Sanders' moment in the House of Assembly is very much on the same page as the emergency orders being extended forever and ever and ever and ever, right? Because it feels very much, people don't usually give up on power and the level of power that they could have and wield over persons. If you end the emergency order, there's less that you can do to control your critics, your opposition, your anything. But if you hold on to it, you literally have all the power in the world, right? And it's I know the counter argument is, but what about the third wave or the fourth wave or the second wave or whatever wave it is? We aren't, and when I say we, I mean everybody, including the government, but particularly the government, is not genuine in their desire to stop COVID more than their desire to make money.
What evidence do you have to support that, Stephen?
The rules concerning travel have always been weird, right? And it's there's a whole thing where it's if you are a certain person of a certain class, then you certainly will need to be home by 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, depending on when the curfew is, for the reasons of the local economy that has been extended so that persons can have a full 9 to 5 and they can get the full workday out of you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they want, if they were serious about stopping transmission and stopping the chance of a new variant from coming in the country and getting a handle of this, they would take other measures, all right? But beyond us seeing their personal behavior, where the hotspot is always cabinet or the House of Assembly, beyond that, there's been time and time again, whether you think that there should be harsher or harder measures in terms of lockdown or not, everybody can agree that the travel restrictions are weird. And it's almost as though, like, well, certain people...
Are there restrictions or you have requirements? Requirements, but not really restrictions.
Sorry, yeah, the travel requirements, they skew on the, well, wait, what side of life? All right? And so it's like, that's my opinion on the matter, right? I'm sure that the government has some wonderful justification as to why they are doing what they're doing and why they will continue to do what they're doing. But the whole idea where they're going to the medical community before they stop the emergency order is, to me, subterfuge. Because it's like, just make the decision that you want to make because you wasn't listening to them. They did not listen to them on several steps along the way.
Well, some of them were very extreme. I mean, they were
very
extreme.
Yes, some of them were extreme, but not so. Nothing that the medical community recommended was more extreme than what we've already experienced.
Oh, I don't think that's accurate. I do not think that's accurate at all. Not at all. But what type of things would you like to see?
I'm in which regard?
I mean, you say the things that they can do. Things like what?
We've had this conversation.
Well, say
before,
it again.
right?
Let's hear what you say.
No, I'm not going to go down that road again,
because what is
the
there?
Conversation,
I mean, what else could be done?
The AG says, in terms of what they could do in legislation,
and to stop the spread. I mean, what we're doing this. We're doing this. What can they do? Right? People are hearing what you need to do, and they're still doing it. The parties continue. The behaviors don't change. People aren't wearing masks. People are right up under each other. What has changed? And that's everybody, from the campaigners to the partiers. That's everybody. People are going to events. They know they don't know where this person's been for the last 3 months, and it's business as usual. So, I mean, what?
Yeah, but that's from fatigue.
Fatigue? It was like this last April.
Of people dragging out this entire thing. It's like, and when I say dragging it out, it would be better to do something extreme for 2 weeks or 2 months than to do something mediocre for a year and a half, 2 years.
Did we do something mediocre?
I'm saying, because right now what we have, like you said, like people aren't abiding by certain things. People are still congregating, all this different stuff.
Yeah, and people weren't stopping at traffic lights. This is how we are, apparently. So what more can we do? What more can be done?
I don't know if this is how we are. There are people who don't stop at traffic lights, and that's why the same way you have COVID police giving out, what is it, $100,000 fines and stuff. You should have persons giving out. There should be police officers at traffic lights, or at least the cameras at the traffic lights should work. I mean, but that's a different topic.
Yeah. But to say the government doesn't care is very extreme. Now, the money thing might be something, right? We do wonder why testing isn't free, but to say they don't care and that money is more important, I think that's very, very, very extreme and reckless.
I mean, I don't think that they don't care about Bahamian life in so much that Bahamian life is persons working, because then, if you're working, then business can continue. Like, I think that they want Bahamians to live, but I also think that they like money more.
Okay, let's hear what laws you're thinking can, folks, let's hear from you. What laws you think can be done if you believe that we don't need the emergency order in place any longer, or if you feel it needs to be extended. Let's get your views on it. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning to everybody.
Hi, good morning.
All right. What I say is that, we're not living, the Bahamas is not in a bubble. There are ways all around the world. There's data all around the world, and there are ways and means to deal with every situation that arrives here. You see, if we say, we need legislation, well, what has other nations done with legislation? You know what I'm saying? There's so many nations. Have they done legislation? What is the specifics on the legislation? You see, where's the politicians or the oppositions, all of them, where are their legislation, where are their bills, or where are their proposals? You see, where's the government proposals on legislation? Where is it? You see, so, and we asking the doctors. You know, what could the doctors tell us? We all we need is a data from our hospital, from our Ministry of Health on our cases. You see what I'm saying? That's all we need to do, and then we determine, you know, what steps we should take to lock down or you know, or to create increase restrictions or decrease restrictions. You see, and with that thing on what's going on with Mr. Davis, you know, the other day they talking about Holly Moutry wasting the people's time and they're not getting anything done. Holly Moutry take a couple of minutes, right, and do a communications, and they had a problem with that. Come on, man, these guys waste time over and repeatedly in this parliament, right? They don't put any bills on the table. What do?
Okay.
They go and read statements and just like what we call it, the thing in the U.S. thing where they just waste time rather than getting and rather than doing their work.
Filibuster, yeah.
Filibuster. Well, you know, where's the bill? Where's the bill on what you call it, the removal property? Yeah. You see,
don't hold your breath on that one. Don't hold your breath on that one. Thank you very much. Okay, let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Dwight.
Hi.
And good morning, Stephen.
Yes.
All right, morning. I honestly think, Dwight, that the country needs to come to some sort of more opening. All right, I think Stephen said something about going in, but Dwight, why do you all sit on the radio as journalists and talk show hosts, defending governments, past and present? I can tell you why I say that. These simple things, you know, Dwight Strachan, these things, all right, if you want to say that you're going to open the country, but, okay, we can pass a law that you have to wear a mask. You have to wear that mask, and if you don't wear that mask, you get a straight-out fine. You know, ifs, ands, and buts, or you go to court, I didn't have, this and that. That's a fine. These simple things you could do.
They cannot pass that law. They cannot force people to wear a mask if there's no emergency. I'm telling you now. That will be defeated.
Listen,
that won't pass anywhere in the world.
Now we're getting somewhere. Now, you so smart. Let me see how smart you is this morning. You telling me now, hold on, Dwight. You telling me you cannot pass a law saying making it mandatory for people to wear masks. So is cheap I come with my house this morning and walk around with a mask?
No, we're in an emergency. We are in an emergency.
But you could go and pass that as Dwight. I thought
you cannot pass that law.
Dwight. See, one thing with me, I'm not going to come on your radio and make a fool of myself. All right? I keep telling you that. You can't pass a law making it.
I mean, if you have a bunch of idiots who sit around and will say, yeah, that's fine, you could, but that could be easily challenged and defeated in any sensible court, right? Yeah, why do I have to wear the mask? Why? Why do I have to wear a mask? What's the issue? There's a disease out there. Oh, okay, I want it. What's the problem? There's no emergency. Why should I do this? You're going to do it because they say you should? Okay. Now, you could make me wear a mask in your establishment. You could make me do that in your house. But outside, everywhere I go, I have to wear a mask? For what reason?
Isn't that what's happening now, though?
But we are in an emergency.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I don't think he's suggesting anything different.
If you remove the emergency order and then pass a law that you must wear a mask, for what?
Inside businesses or in closed spaces.
No, you can't tell me that. Why? I don't want them to do that.
What's the difference?
Why? Why must I tell people what to do? In my business, I don't want to wear a mask.
I'm legitimately asking you a question, Dwight.
Why should we do that?
Here's the thing, Dwight. I'm asking you the question. The only question I'm asking you is, what are you telling me that the only difference? Because both of them are technically laws.
I have an air purifier in my building. They don't need to wear a mask in here. What's the reason?
You're not listening to the question. The emergency order is a law, all right? except that it gives wide-reaching powers all over the place. A regular law is a law. The only difference is one has the word emergency in it. To the people on the ground, at the end of the day, it's the same thing to us either way. All right?
It can't and shouldn't be. So you can pass a law that demands that you wear flip-flops inside your house?
They're doing that right. They could do that right now.
Yeah, who would sit back and allow that to happen?
What you mean? Who would allow it to happen?
Would you sit back and allow that to happen? How can they tell? Stephen, let's not be extreme here. They can't pass that. That is not going to work.
I didn't bring up the example.
I'm just saying that's not a good one. That's not one at all. There would have to be some sort of emergency for you to do that. What is the reasoning?
They could pass that today, and they don't need to have the. It doesn't need to be debated on for it to
and
pass. It doesn't need to go to the Senate.
It would be challenged in court and likely be struck down by the courts.
Nothing. I'm saying based on the emergency orders, it could happen today.
Well, that's why there are emergency orders.
And it will not be challenged in the courts, and it will not be struck down in the courts.
Oh my God! Why are we talking in circles? We just said that. That's why it's happening, because there are emergency orders. If we remove the emergency orders, there's no way you could make people wear masks. There's no way. That's what I've been saying, right? What would be the reason for me to do it?
I'm saying, what's the reason to do it now?
Because we are in an emergency. We've got a health crisis, a global health crisis. If you remove the emergency order, what is the justification for all of this weird behavior?
I'm saying that if you want to, you have to differentiate how you feel about it and how other people might feel about it.
Folks, hopefully you all are listening to what I'm saying. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
How are you doing, sir?
Hi.
Mr. Stephen, how are you doing? Mr. Strachan, this is unbelievable. For the first time in my life, I agree everything Stephen is saying. Because, Mr. Strachan, if you won't be fair, right? Mr. Strachan, first of all, I know you advocating obey the rules. You haven't taken your vaccine yet. So that means you're being hypocritical.
Dave, have you taken yours?
Mr. Strachan.
Have you taken yours?
Let me answer, Mr. Strachan.
I've got my reasons. I will take mine, but I haven't taken it yet. What is it to you?
Mr. Strachan,
have you taken yours?
No, give me a chance.
No, not today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Caller, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
The discussion about what the government could do. Okay, we have a law right now. We have a couple of pieces of legislation right now that the government could have amended long time ago to deal with stopping the spread of any type of disease. We have the Quarantine Act, okay? And in that particular act, it gives the Minister of Health, whoever the Minister of Health is, certain powers to do orders, just like they've been doing orders in the emergency, in the state of emergency, under the emergency orders, right? They could pass a law demanding that people wear masks, because we have a law that demands that people wear seatbelts in cars. And the reason for that is to protect the public and to protect you when you're driving. So the state of emergency doesn't have anything to do with the state of emergency. Actually gives the competent authority the authority to suspend our civil liberties. Like tell us we can't travel, we can't do these particular things. But as far as passing a law demanding that when you outdoors because of the spread, to stop the spread of this COVID-19 or any disease, we would be required to wear a mask outdoors when we leave our premises. That's if you read the Quarantine Act, and I think that's the problem where we have a lot of lawyers in this country, and we haven't really had any real legal debate on these matters. Most of us was just we had no other choice, some of us, going along with what the government say this is what they could do under the state of emergency. We had no court challenge, really, to these state of emergencies and all these orders to even know if what the government was doing was even constitutional. Because if you could remember Dame Joan Sawyer, she's the only person outside of Dame Anita Allen, who wrote something comprehensive on this state of emergency and what the government was doing. And I think she pointed out certain flaws in how the government was going about this state of emergency. But I think from reading the Constitution and reading the Quarantine Act, that the government could pass just simple legislation as far as the mask is concerned. But as far as suspending our civil liberties, that is, we can't travel inside or outside the Bahamas, and the curfew and all that kind of stuff, that comes under with the state of emergency. But the Quarantine Act, they could look at that and amend that. Some of the same stuff what they've been doing under the state of emergency, the Quarantine Act allow the government to do.
Yeah. All right. I hear you, and I knew someone was going to bring up the seatbelt thing. I really think it's very different. You're operating or in a potentially dangerous vehicle. But I think the equivalent to that would be maybe wearing a hard hat, requiring that everybody wear a hard hat. For what? I'm not doing anything. But if you're by yourself walking and you don't have a mask, you're not really going to be in grave danger. You could be at any minute catapulted out of that vehicle if something happens, right? I think it's a little bit different there.
People wear it, but there are people who will be like, why do I need to wear a seatbelt inside this vehicle that has side airbags, that this vehicle is essentially a tank?
The airbags can kill you, especially if you're not wearing a seatbelt when the airbags deploy. They will project
in your words, I like cushion.
Oh,
because
okay.
that was your argument. Your argument is like, I want to catch disease. Whole point is, it doesn't matter.
Well, they're not pillows. They're not pillows.
Once again,
that person clearly has never watched the video.
With the idea of it is that the entire thought itself is like, why are you arguing against a seatbelt? Just put on the seatbelt, or if you get caught not wearing the seatbelt, you're going to pay a fine, right? And literally, I think that's what the caller is saying. The caller's just saying,
hear it. It's not quite the same.
Things are enforced. Nothing is going to be exactly the same.
Yeah,
like even with the hard hat situation, there have been times where I've had to go to film something that was on technically a construction site. There was nothing overhead around me, but I was required to wear a hard hat. One, my head is too large for a regulation hard hat. And two, I have dreadlocks. So the hard hat literally looked like the Hey Arnold cap, where it's just sitting on top of hair, right? But they were like, if you want to come on this premises to film, even if you're going in a building, even if you're not walking under any machinery or near any machinery, you need to put on this hard hat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I didn't stay there and argue with them and say,
you shouldn't.
This is ridiculous. This is an infringement of my personal liberty.
Absolute sense. Why would you?
I put it on, right? Even though I could look at it and say, I don't personally feel this is necessary. I deferred to their better judgment and said, it must be a reason, so let's do it.
Yeah, it must be a reason. There you go, Stephen. There must be
However, they
reason.
didn't need an emergency order to make me do it.
No,
right?
because you are on a construction site. Exactly.
I'm saying that all these things are possible. Things are possible without the emergency order. The issue that I have is literally the emergency order, right? And you want you feel the emergency order is necessary. I don't feel it's necessary.
I didn't say that. I said that's the only way they can achieve some of the things they're doing. There would be no justification for a curfew if there's no emergency. And they cannot continue the curfew if there is no emergency at all. That would have to go immediately. Why would there be a curfew?
They need the curfew now, but I also do. I'm 1,000% certain that they could do the curfew whether or not there was an emergency.
How? For what reason? You mean as
I'm sure there's an obscure law somewhere inside.
And we'd be fools to sit back and allow them to do it. We'd be fools. We need to all rally together and get all the lawyers together and not take it. They aren't there to just lord over us. And that's not what's supposed to be happening here, right? They just cannot do that unless you want them to do that. So if they talk foolishness like that and there is no emergency, as they say, then why are you doing any of these things? Let's take some more calls really quickly. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Dwight.
Hi, good morning.
Right here, man. Listen, man. I support you 100%. There's no way you could just pass any silly law and going to pass through like that. That former caller really making a fool of himself. That don't make no sense. Just can't pass any silly law. It has to be reasonable and it's going to have support. So I don't know whether that caller, how he wake up on the wrong side.
That's not, okay, so we literally live in a situation where there are only four members of the opposition, maybe 5 if you count the person for Farmville or Farm Road, right? Or Centerville, sorry. But you're saying that you can't just pass any silly law. They could pass a law tomorrow saying that all buildings must be
Stephen,
the color
passing
of
the
purple.
law is one thing, but you see what Fred Smith and others like that are able to do, right? You can challenge this and fight it in court, tie it up, stop them from doing nonsense. They are not kings. They're not kings. If they start to do that, if they lose their senses and pass craziness like that, we have options to stop the foolishness, right? So if they ever think they can do that, which I don't think they are that crazy yet, we can stop it.
That's true.
We have a voice. We do have a say. The people can rise up and say, hey, what do you think this is? There's no reason for this. So it doesn't matter what they pass in that silly house, right? It doesn't have to become what we have to do if you don't agree with it. Now, if you sit back and say, oh, well, look at them doing foolishness again, well, then that you get what you deserve. You get what they deserve. But what would be the justification? We've handed over a lot of this because we do, many of us, agree there has been an emergency. This has been a global crisis. But how much longer can you do this? And if you remove the emergency in this emergency order, then why are we doing these things? You're going to pass laws? For what?
For some of the things that may be helpful, but like not everything, clearly, but at the same time, all that comes with the whole discussion of what is necessary at this point.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, for the people who go and get vaccinated up and get their 2 doses, I really would love to see how you could pass a law about masks. For the people who, after the emergency is gone, the curfew, what's the issue? Well, why do we need a curfew? For what? What are you trying to control now? Because we're all vaccinated up and you've removed the emergency. So, what are you trying to do? This goes back to what you were saying about the love of power. That would be the only reason why they would be able to do that or would want to continue to do that. And if we don't have an emergency, then none of this makes any sense. Now, if you continue to show that we do have an emergency, well, we'll see. But otherwise, just because I can pass this law, I'm going to do it?
If they want to prove something,
why would they want to
justify something? That's a very easy thing to do because, like you said, the numbers have risen before and they're going to rise. They're rising now, and it's like there was a point in time where we were up to date with the numbers on a daily basis, and now it's like we hear the numbers when they want to send us the numbers, and so it's more like if they wanted to, they could justify anything with the numbers.
Yeah.
Because the numbers aren't something that we see on a daily basis. At the end of the
you
day,
really have a very serious distrust for the people running the
I don't have a
government.
distrust for the people. I know human beings, right? Human beings will do what is expedient for them to get whatever their agenda is completed. That's just what it is. And that's left, right, black, yellow, up, down, whatever it is. Whatever type of human being that you back, their purpose is like, this is how I feel, this is the agenda I wish to push, and I'm going to do whatever is necessary to get that agenda forwarded.
Okay, that's
right?
a very
And that
cynical,
includes-
very sinister look at this. I really...
It's not a
don't-
sinister look.
Oh.
It's like, it's. Is there a reason why they changed the way that they started outputting the information on COVID-19 stats?
Well, they felt that what they're doing now is easier to read and better. It's debatable.
It's not. It's not
debatable.
easy to read and better. And they know that because if that's the case, then why did they do the reverse for the Ministry of Finance's I forget what their updates or their past 6 months or the past year or the budget or whatever. There's a reason why the Ministry of Finance, in order for people to find it more palatable, stopped just printing out spreadsheets and started putting out colorful slideshows so you can know what they're doing with your money. And there must be a equally valid reason that the same government would then stop putting the COVID numbers out in palatable, readable, colorful, bold font posters and start putting it out in these long form spreadsheets that they know nobody's going to read, except for people whose job it is to read it.
Okay, let's take another call, and then we'll get to a lot of you. We've got a lot of messages this morning, but let's hear what you have to say on this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hi, good morning. Yep. Okay, let's take that one. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, Dwight.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good morning to you. Good morning to Stephen. Dwight,
Morning.
you're saying you're actually agreeing with Stephen that they could pass the law. Your argument that it won't make sense.
No, I'm saying that no one's going to sit back and allow it.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But the question is, could they? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, but
and that's what I'm saying. But here's the point. So essentially, the quarantine law that the individual spoke about is a very powerful law for health reasons. And but the difference is there's a stricter guidelines concerning the word quarantine and isolation in its use. And actually, in actuality, they suspended the civil liberties under the emergency. But what the justices and other people were arguing is that we are not using the actual quarantine or the health emergency laws. Here's why. There's two things that you're capable of doing under that law. It says that you can isolate people and you can quarantine people. And those are two very specific definitions in medicine. Isolation separates sick people with a contagious disease from people who are not sick. And quarantine separates and restricts the movement of people who were exposed to a contagious disease to see if they become sick. The problem with that is if you look at the strictness of those two, you will not be able to identify who has been exposed because we don't have systems in place that allows us to do that, such as what you says that contact tracing and all these different things that we so-called make up, the Prime Minister and others. So the problem is that we allow these vague description laws. Laws are very specific. This is why when you go to court, you argue on the merits of the law. But we have been allowing for over a year generalization of the laws and practices so-called under this Competent Authority Act. And so I think Stephen may be right, is that we will make noise about it because we have sat quietly for months and allow our civil liberties to be violated to the extent further than should have been allowed. Because, again, when you tell me to stay home or stay whatever, prove to me that I've been exposed to a contagious disease, whether it be through your published procedure for contact tracing or whatever else. Prove to me that I should be placed in isolation. But we are not. The problem is that we just have generalities. But we can look at 40-plus years of governance and see where we are, because we don't have real rules. We just MSU, make stuff up as we go along. And so what we have to do is, if we want better, we must demand better. But the most important thing is that we must become quantified and qualified in knowing who we are, what rights we have, and everything else, as opposed to just simply saying, well, this guy has a title called Competent Authority, even though he's bringing the in the front of it, because it's now incompetent authority. So, I'm disappointed in the legal fraternity that we haven't challenged this over the last year and have a real conversation.
All right. So well, you see, that's tricky because people know that it has been serious, right? Whether you agree with the numbers or how they present it, we know that COVID is real and has been killing people and making people very, very sick. And I think that's why a lot of people have been very, as you say, passive and letting whatever happen. But if we couldn't see it, I don't think it would be going the way it's going. But we do see it. We do know. I mean, despite some voices who seem to, I don't know where they are and what cave they are in, but the rest of us know that this has been a terrible, terrible year, and it continues, and I think that's why some people have been able to live with giving up those civil liberties, right? Because we know that something serious had to have been done, but how much longer? That is the question. Let's read some of these messages. The government should impose stronger restrictions to quell the spread of this third wave, but not lockdowns. We can't afford that. I vehemently disagree with Stephen, though. I think the government is committed to ensuring the health, safety, and economic stability of all Bahamians. It's a thin line to walk between safety and economic stability. Okay.
I don't think that the person disagrees with me. That's what I'm saying. I'm just not using the same words.
All right. But not lockdowns, but what would there be?
No, I mean, the part they say about the stability stuff.
Well, I'm asking, if it's not lockdowns, then what would you do to quell a third wave? What could you do?
I
just asking, not asking necessarily you, but just asking.
No, I know. I mean, like, must he sprinkle salt around people? I don't know.
Olive oil, the place.
It's all over at the end of the day. It's all over. And the reason I say that is because people treat it like it is some sort of religious practice to walk around with their mask underneath their chin. Or people who should know better because they are in government and they're doctors and they are the prime minister, sometimes are caught with pictures where the mask is not covering their nose. But, it counts because spiritually I have a mask on, so...
This text here, I think the emergency orders should be removed. For a year, we've been told to go home to our beds before 10 p.m. And how are 50 COVID cases throughout the Bahamas considered a wave? Ridiculous. Well, it's 50 a day. 50 a day. But anyway, we can enforce a mask mandate the same way enforce the seatbelt law. I've told you before, it's not quite the same thing. Not quite at all. Nothing is the same. No, Stephen, it's very different. You're in a vehicle that's moving and can travel up to well above 100 miles per hour. It's not the same thing as me sitting on a bench. No, in a field or next to a building or standing outside a building is not the same thing. Come on.
Are you saying that you think that they will mandate you to wear a mask outside in a field by yourself?
If I'm standing outside a building, if I'm attempting to, or even looking like I'm about to go into this building, I have to wear a mask.
You said that that if you go in a building, yes, right?
The owners of that place can determine whether I need to. They can say who needs to wear a mask in a building.
Yeah, but right. I'm saying like in a building is fine because if the people downtown could say you can't come inside our restaurant without shoes on or without a shirt, then we refuse to serve you, right? Then clearly that is something that if a regular citizen can make that decision, then clearly that could also be put in law, that you have to wear a mask when you're entering a building for whatever set amount of time under ordinary law. I don't think that right now we're allowed to go outside without a mask. I could walk up and down my neighborhood without a mask on. I could walk for miles without a mask on. And I know this because I do it, right? They may ask they ask us to carry a mask, and I only assume that's because you may have to stop and go in a building in an emergency, a real emergency, right? But I don't think that anybody is saying that if you are outside of your house the minute you step outside that you have to wear a mask. Like, this isn't the first month of COVID anymore where we don't know how the disease works. So I don't think that is a fair argument to say no one, the argument what if I'm outside?
So it sounds like it's no longer an emergency. That's what
well, Dwight, everybody who is called today, whether they agree or not, doesn't feel it's an emergency.
Okay, well, there we go. So we don't need it anymore. At the end of May, lift it, and let's all go back to normal then. That's the people have spoken.
No, that's what you're saying.
No, or what are we saying? What are we saying?
Dwight, it not being an emergency doesn't mean you don't take precautions.
Okay,
your car
well,
isn't on fire. That doesn't mean that you don't go get it serviced. Your car isn't on fire. That doesn't mean you don't wear a seatbelt. That doesn't mean that you take out the airbag.
So leave it up to the people, the store owners, the businesses. When you're in this building, we require you to wear a mask. Let it be up to them. No law. Just let it be up to them.
Because then people will literally just be like, oh, this place is mask-free. The same way they put VAT-free on the outside of their doors, where it's not really VAT-free.
I've never seen that, but okay. But let it be. Let it be.
Recently, I've seen it. Where people
let it
are
be
like,
then.
no
It's no emergency anymore, if that's the case. Let it be. Let them decide. Let them decide.
See, you're doing this thing where you're like, it's either left or right. It's either my way or everything.
Not my way.
No, right.
It's just make it make sense. Make it make sense. That's all.
There's a middle ground that we can arrive at.
Okay. All right. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more Morning Blend. Stay with us.
COVID-19, COVID-19. Oh, such a killing machine. COVID-19, COVID-19. An enemy that remains unseen. COVID-19, COVID-19. Oh, such a killing machine.
Got your first look at traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC Royal Bank. In your real-time traffic this morning, we are seeing some heavy traffic near the six-legged roundabout, especially from multiple directions, actually. It's looking pretty heavy this morning. Not sure what's happening there. Not normal at this hour of the day, but keep that in mind. If you are there, you might want to avoid that area entirely. Samara Butler Highway also busy this morning. Northbound lanes heading towards Tawnique-Williams-Darling Highway, and westbound on Tawnique-Williams-Darling Highway busy this morning. Also, along University Drive, you're going to be seeing pockets of heavy traffic, mainly westbound, heading towards that six-legged roundabout. But that's what's going on there. Gladstone Road northbound also busy this morning. Carmichael Road eastbound, the traffic is building, and then we've got heavy traffic on Blue Hill Road northbound, just north of Soldier Road, heading towards Independence Drive. Those are your hottest spots. Elsewhere, we're seeing traffic building. We're expecting it to be pretty busy. The next time we have a real-time report for you, that's just after the 8 o'clock news. Stay tuned for that, but that's the Royal Bank. That's Royal Bank bringing you your Morning Blend traffic alert.
Roaming just got easier. Say hello to more with our new Liberty Prime plan. With more minutes, more texts, and more data to do the things you love right here at home and even when you travel. With the all-new Liberty Prime, Liberty Premium, and Liberty Elite, you've got one less worry. Roam again. Alive. Believe in best. Believe in best.
And it's time for your Morning Blend weather, brought to you by Rev Cable Bahamas. Here's what's happening. We've got prefrontal trough activity along with its trailing frontal boundary across the northwest Bahamas, while a weakening ridge of high pressures over the remaining islands. Mariners should be alert for possible water spout activity in showers and thunderstorms. For the northwest Bahamas today, look for partly cloudy to cloudy, humid and hot conditions with scattered showers and thunderstorms through tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, partly sunny, hot and humid with isolated showers. Showers and thunderstorms increasing in the central Bahamas tonight, becoming fair and warm and mild with an isolated shower or two across the southeast Bahamas through tonight. High temperatures getting up to around 90 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to 73 Fahrenheit, 23 Celsius. In your extended outlook, we've been talking about this cold front for days now. It's going to become stationary across the central Bahamas and then linger across the area through Sunday. So for tomorrow, Saturday, look for partly cloudy to cloudy conditions with scattered showers and thunderstorms ahead and along the frontal boundary in the northwest and central Bahamas. Partly sunny and hot with an isolated shower in the southeast Bahamas. Sunday, partly cloudy and breezy with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms near the frontal boundary. Partly sunny and hot and breezy with isolated showers over the remaining islands for your Mother's Day. That's Morning Blend Weather Check, brought to you by Rev Cable Bahamas. Basketball fans, you've got to sign up now. Only a week left to go in the NBA regular season. So it's time for you to sign up for Rev Trio. And you can get absolutely free NBA League Pass. Call 601-8992 or email trio@cablebahamas.com to sign up. Rev, you and us together.
Go cash cashless with CIBC First Caribbean and enjoy enhanced safety features with our Visa debit and credit cards. Pair them with our mobile app and turn on transaction alerts. You'll receive an alert every time your card is used, so you're always in the know. Visit CIBCFCIB.com for more information. Go cashless with CIBC First Caribbean.
Basketball is back, baby, and so is NBA League Pass, only with Rev Trio. Sign up for Rev Trio today and enjoy NBA League Pass absolutely free, along with incredible prizes, including a brand new 50-inch smart TV, NBA gear, and more. With tons of prizes and gear, signing up for Trio is the best on and off-court move this year. Just call 601-8992 or visit www.rev.bs/promotions/trio. Sign up for Rev Trio today and enjoy NBA League Pass absolutely free.
Digital banking, online, RBC. RBC banking, online, pay your bills anytime.
RBC Digital Banking is so easy. Granny and Granddad can do it. Sign up for online banking or download the RBC Caribbean app.
With RBC, it's so easy. Send your money hassle-free. RBC.
Visit rbc.com/Caribbean/bank@home. RBC Royal Bank. Banking reimagined.
Stay a step ahead of technology with certainty and support from Custom Computers. Our know-how team is here to help you zero in on your next big tech purchase, finding solutions that take your productivity to the next level using only the best and most reliable brands. With 4 stores all across Nassau on East Bay, West Bay, Old Forte, and Palmdale, there's no stopping you from stepping up your tech. Reach out to us at 396-1100. Find trust in your tech. Count on Custom Computers.
The best place to get a new iPhone is at ETC. Make the iPhone 12 mini yours for just $199. That's big savings to go with our sweet postpaid value of unlimited local calls, international minutes, roaming data and minutes, plus all the data you need. Stream, share, and stay connected on the best LTE network when you switch to ETC. Visit a store to sign up today and get the iPhone 12 mini for just $199. Conditions apply.
Meet Jackie. Jackie's a hard worker with a steady income, but she has a personal loan and multiple credit cards to pay off. To keep her account current, Jackie opted for a loan from Fidelity Bank to consolidate her debt into one monthly payment and earn interest on a built-in savings account. Be like Jackie. Call 356-7764 to book a complimentary financial coaching session. Fidelity also offers virtual assistance. Fidelity, we're good for you.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Let's get out a party, Santa got to see. Poker stand behind the door and poke it out to me. What? Akaraka kona shamama kanke got no bone. Akaraka kona shamama kanke got no bone. Raw me like me conquered fish, me can't bother with the meat. Cut me chew so hard, meal grind on bone.
We are back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna on this Friday morning. And we're changing gears, talking about conch. Might not have any bone, but it can give you some other things. At this time, I don't know what that means. But here to talk about conch poisoning, we're very pleased to welcome back to the show Dr. Nakia Forbes, Director of the HIV and Infectious Disease Unit at the Ministry of Health. Dr. Forbes, great to have you with us, as always.
Good morning, Mr. Strachan. Good morning, Bahamas. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Maybe later we may talk about the other thing that we normally talk to you about. But for now, let's talk about conch. We know we've had quite a number of cases. Do you have the numbers that we've been seeing over the past few months?
We are seeing persons that are reporting gastroenteritis, vomiting, and diarrhea after consuming raw conch. I don't have the numbers, but it's important to recognize that this is something that can occur, especially in the warmer summer months, based upon the bacteria that causes this kind of seafood-related illness.
Okay, warmer months. I've said it before on the show, and people were really trying to destroy me after I said it, but I don't normally, especially after a major outbreak we had back in, I think that was the late 90s. There was a major conch poisoning outbreak. And since then, for the summer months, I avoid raw conch. And people thought that was extreme. But this is a real thing. We do see the numbers increase at this time of the year.
It is a real thing. It's important to recognize that. So let me tell you more. The bacteria that causes this seafood-related illness is called Vibrio parahemolyticus. And this bacteria is naturally present in marine conditions. It's naturally present in the seas. There are certain conditions that can make it proliferate. There can be more of it at certain times of the year because it tends to proliferate in warmer, shallow waters. And so this is particularly a problem in warmer summer months. But notably, with global warming, it can happen at other times of the year.
All right, so we're seeing a longer stretch where we will see an increase in these numbers then, and earlier into the year and later into the year.
So it is possible that it traditionally, it used to be something that was seen in warmer months. So this organism can also cause other seafood to get contaminated. Mm-hmm. It's a problem, for example, in oysters or mollusks like clams, etc. Right. And so places that have those kind of industries, oyster industries, notably, it was a problem in the warmer summer months, but it's been recognized because of global warming and temperatures going up, it can be a problem at other times during the year. Mm-hmm. The important message is that people need to be very cautious. If you're eating raw or undercooked seafood in those kind of conditions, you have an increased risk of getting gastroenteritis from that organism.
All right, we're going to take a quick break for news. When we come back, more on this and what risks are there if you're eating cooked conch. Does that eliminate it totally or not so much? We're going to get the answer when we come back. We're talking with Dr. Nakia Forbes. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio.
It's Friday, May 7th, 2021, and you're listening to the Guardian News Network Morning Report. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlene Ferguson. Thanks for tuning in. Topping the news, Cabinet can take up the matter of marijuana legislation as early as next week. That from Attorney General Carl Bethel, who predicts that legislation could make its way to Parliament next month. Kyle Joaquin reports.
We're trying to see whether or not we're in a position to bring it forward either this week or the next week for Cabinet to approve at the end of this process.
Before the end of the budget year, next month, government is expected to bring its medicinal cannabis bill and other associated bills to Parliament, according to the Attorney General. It's one of the final steps after years of consultation and research. Bethel says after consultation on the first draft, some recommendations cannot be implemented right now, but Cabinet is set to discuss as early as next week after it passes through the Law Reform Commission.
Put all of the different suggestions that we think are going to be workable, because not everything suggested is workable at the present time, into the redraft of the bill. That will then be submitted to me, I'm told, by the end of tomorrow afternoon. And then on Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to organize a meeting of the Ministerial Committee, Subcommittee of Cabinet, that has been charged with this consultation process, and we will go through the bill line by line.
Back in February, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said government was working on a bill to legalize medical marijuana in the Bahamas. However, the Attorney General today hinted at a wider scope.
We've had meetings now, consultative meetings over Zoom, with potential entrepreneurs, investors potentially, persons or Bahamians who are living abroad, who already have businesses in terms of the dispensation or sale of cannabis edibles or other things like that. So we had both Bahamians who are resident here and Bahamians resident abroad.
The Christian Council, Pharmacy Association, and medical professionals were consulted. Bethel says the development of a hemp industry was also discussed.
Anything that has THC within the cannabis plant of more than 0.3% is considered psychoactive and therefore within the remit of the Dangerous Drugs Act. Anything with less than 0.3% THC is not psychoactive. It does not meet the standard of being a dangerous drug and is available and will be available in due course.
The Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana has recommended the decriminalization of up to 1 ounce of the substance. We asked Bethel whether that's one of the recommendations government would be on board with.
We will see what we will see when we get there, okay? I don't want to make predictions until I see the final package.
Now, again, the AG said Cabinet can discuss it as early as next week, with legislation to be complete sometime soon. Reporting for the Guardian News Network, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, independent MP for Sandoval, Reece Chipman, is applauding House Speaker Halsa Moultrie for taking on the Minister administration's apparent double standards regarding enforcement of COVID protocols. Jasmine Brown has that.
Just want to thank God for giving him the courage to even attempt to ask questions of parliamentarians in the position that he's in.
In Parliament on Wednesday, Moultrie criticized the Minister administration and accused the executive of dragging the Parliament around like a dinghy boat. He also took issue with the cabinet making decisions without involving him. The House was suspended prematurely on Wednesday morning after Moultrie accused the government of mishandling of health protocols and playing games with people's lives as it related to the House clerk having tested positive for COVID-19 last week. There was also a brief showdown between Moultrie and Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis after Moultrie demanded the PM give an account to the Bahamian people.
You know, I definitely support the fact that he would have step up his game in terms of his independence. I would have liked to have seen it sooner, but you know, better late than never.
Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Brave Davis has suggested that the deteriorating relationship between Moultrie and the government is interfering with the people's business. Chipman says there is definitely a breakdown in communication.
From what we can see and from our observation, I think it is definitely a breakdown in communication. And of course, relationship between the House Speaker and of course the member for Kalani.
Both Chipman and Moultrie have resigned from the Free National Movement. Moultrie's resignation was more recent. It came in early February. In his resignation letter, Moultrie said his personal convictions collided with continued affiliation with the organization. Moultrie has said he intends to serve as an independent member until the House is either prorogued for the purpose of electing a new speaker or dissolved for the election.
Independence of the speaker is really the Westminster model. What we have done is perfected this relationship with the speaker through partisan politics. And I think that has to come to a head.
Chipman went on to call Wednesday's events in Parliament historic and unprecedented, and the way things need to be done for a country to hold its leaders accountable. Reporting for Guardian News Network, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Officials continue to defend the fire response to that devastating fire along Balfour Avenue Sunday amid claims firefighters ran out of water. Bethany McDermott reports.
Not serious by any extent because, I mean, the technology out there nowadays allow for tankers and additional water supply. And so, I mean, this is nothing that, this is not a hurdle that cannot be overcome.
National Security Minister Marvin Dame says low water pressure can be expected, but sought to downplay the issue in relation to Sunday's fire. Yesterday, the Water and Sewage Corporation hit back at allegations, stating that water supply wasn't the issue. Rather, a high water pressure would have been preferred. The statement reads, as has been expressed by the corporation previously after major fires, our New Providence water supply system was not designed to provide fire flows. It continues, fire flow systems usually have a design capacity in excess of 1,000 gallons per minute. However, only a limited amount of our transmission mains have that operational capacity. When pressed on the matter, the police commissioner said fire hydrants doesn't fall under his remit. He did, however, say that in the event of water issues, there is a backup plan.
The backup plan is that if there is a failure with the water, there are some of those, you still see the red stands But we know the difference. The fire people know the difference. So if there's no water, they'll go to the one that they have bore wells. So that is the backup plan should the situation with water fails.
WSC added the corporation will continue to work with central government and fire services for the installation of groundwater fire wells in strategic locations for firefighting purposes. Well, the police commissioner also sought to defend the fire department amidst claims that trucks ran out of water during that major fire.
The fire truck carried 800 gallons of water, I think, and then there's one that was a tanker. Okay? You have a fire, you're pumping that water, the water's going to run out. And we said already we addressed the issue with the hydrant. So, major fire like that, yes, the trucks will run out.
The fire occurred around 3 p.m. Sunday. Residents and onlookers complained that firefighters ran out of water, even claiming that the truck came to the scene without water. 6 homes were completely destroyed by the fire, while 4 received extensive damage. Reporting for the Guardian News Network, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Stay with us. There's more news after the break.
I bank wherever I want thanks to Scotia Online and Mobile. I bank from my garden. I bank from my living room. I also bank from my kitchen. No need to wait in line. Now when I bank with Scotia, I bank on my own time. Seniors, you too can bank your way any time of day without ever going into a branch. Find out more. To get started, visit bs.scotiabank.com/digital seniors.
At Master Technicians, we have what your family traditions need, starting with industry-best refrigerators, ranges, and ovens. We also carry Whirlpool washer and dryers, dishwashers and freezers, leading KitchenAid countertop appliances, blenders, microwaves, juicers, kettles, and KitchenAid stand mixers. We even do free delivery in New Providence or to the boat of your choice. Whether you're doing the laundry, creating new memories in the kitchen, or spending family time in front of the television, Master Technicians Limited, keeping family traditions alive for more than 50 years.
I been up by Pender the other day and I meet him riding around on the payload. I said, Pender! He smiled away. I said, man, Pender, I really like what you're doing with the yard. You nod his head and keep moving stuff around. I say, with this new layout, this could be a true drive-through. Each time I was in the way with the hand, so I back on the side. I say, and with this setup, this could be a real one-stop shop. He stopped the payload and he get down. Pender say, Lampkin, do this look like a Cadillac? I say, no. Or this quiet like a Cadillac? I say, no. Well, what make you think I hear a word you say? Anyhow, don't mind him. You would like the changes coming soon to Pender.
Don't wait for disaster to strike. This hurricane season, be ready. Protect your home with an affordable and comprehensive home insurance policy from Shield Insurance. You can't control what nature blows your way, but with Shield Insurance, you can rest easy as you ride out the storm. Protect your largest and most valuable investment. Don't take a chance. Put your home in our hands.
Shield Insurance agents and brokers in Nassau. Call 356-7202 or Freeport 352-5945.
Maybe you should enjoy the savings at Super Value and Quality supermarkets like Alma Vienna sausage, 4.6-ounce can, 79 cents. Promo's peanut butter, 18-ounce jar, $2.99. Super Value water, 1 gallon, $1.39. Fresh tomatoes, $1.49 per pound. Premium boneless chuck steak or roast, $5.99 per pound. Super Value Winton open Sundays 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Super Value Cable Beach open Sundays 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Peter the Peanut Peddler bust up in sunrise that day and start hollering, "Airy nuts! Airy nuts!" So Bullock say, when your nuts that airy, just need one injection in your midsection and that over. Peter say, "Rank!" Today I got dark brown, light brown, light brown, and white. See him here. Bella, as usual, Miss Wallace only did hear the last part of our conversation and get confused right up. She say, "We don't do no colorization and no nuts here. This a watch shop. Carry that freshness someplace else." And now Peter the Peanut Peddler, he in charge of peanut peddling for the whole of Montrose Avenue.
Sun Isles Watch and Clock, number 112 Montrose Avenue. Watch and Clock sales and repairs, and sometimes peanuts too.
Serenity Gated Community. Come and see what all the buzz is about surrounding our pre-construction home packages. Already, we have successfully made it possible for multiple families to realize their dream of home ownership. It's all about value building, folks. Home investment is by far the greatest investment one will ever make, so invest with confidence. Give Desiree Mingo a call at 376-0318 today.
When I got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. It's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Welcome back. After months of waiting, some Sweetings Key residents could receive modular homes by next week. That from DRA Managing Director Kay Forbes-Smith. Jillian Gray explains.
Housing continues to be a challenge in East Grand Bahama nearly 2 years after Hurricane Dorian battered and destroyed people's homes. When we visited Sweetings Key, we saw half a dozen tents erected where people have been living for quite some time.
The tent you're looking at from right here, that is my sister, who still waiting to whatever help, to come in to help her. And so she's still in Freeport, per se. But she'll come home and she'll spend like 2 weeks or a week and she will go back. So living in the tent for her is hard. That, no one really wants to live in the tent, but that's all you could do for now. But they offer her one of the module homes. So she is just waiting for it to actually come on her property. But it was not easy for persons who had to live in tent, it was with no water, no light. It was just hard.
That problem, according to DRA Managing Director Catherine Forbes-Smith, will be solved, at least for a few families, by next week.
So 5 persons have already been selected. They're basically the persons who are still living in a tent. And the basis for those modular units are being constructed simultaneously while you're erecting the modular units as well. So we have to bring a telehandler on the key, and we have to lift those units and put them on the base. We're hoping that certainly by next week, those homes will be will be put on those bases.
Local activist Jaquan Swain isn't impressed. He says that promise has been made and broken before.
Going based from the track record, I'll say that I won't give my hopes for it. I won't put my hopes up for it because they said that a year ago that they were supposed to be up. Then, as recent as March 29th, when we went up there, they said that prior week, when they did the whole tour and the whole media shot to show that they're doing this tour for the new DRA minister. And I don't like when, we see this misleading media approach to say, they're getting their relief. They're doing well. No, they're not. They're still in tents. They still can't bathe every day. They still have to share one tent with no privacy with a whole family. And then even up to today right now, there's still no modular units up.
20 modular homes were donated by the Mediterranean Shipping Company, but Forbes-Smith says bad weather, barging issues, and the sheer weight of the structures made it a logistical nightmare to get them on the island. The domes and modular homes donated for hurricane survivors still come at a cost to the DRA.
And it's somewhere around $7,500 to erect these domes, because by the time you formulate the base for the domes, and then you have to pay the labor to erect them. It's not an inexpensive venture, okay? And so we're constantly looking for donor support to help us through these processes.
Will that help to move the process along?
Oh, definitely. Money is always, if you have money in hand to do everything, you can move quickly.
Reporting from Grand Bahamas, I'm Jillian Gray.
That's going to do it for local news. Stay with us. AP News is next.
Apex Award Signs and Engraving is excited about this summer's graduation. Celebrate your graduates with high-quality custom graduation signs available at great low prices. Need custom printing on apparel, promotional merchandise printing, or photo imaging services? No problem. You can get personalized diploma covers, plaques, plates, albums, clocks, pens, pencils, and so much more. Say congratulations to the class of 2021 with signs, hanging banners, and expressing appreciation on social media. Celebrate 2021 graduates with your own custom yard sign, banner, or poster from Apex Award Signs and Engraving, number 128 Mount Royal Avenue, or on Moulton Street, a block north of McCarthy's Pharmacy. Open weekdays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturdays 9 to 1.
Everything is changing, and your favorite hardware and home improvement store is getting with the program. We Buy You Sell is rolling out its new online shopping feature. If you go to our website, wbusbahamas.com, it's a quick and easy 3-step process. Step 1, browse the gallery and select your item. Step 2, add to cart. And step 3, check out. Go to our website, wbusbahamas.com, to shop with us today.
How the exercise going?
Not too good.
What happened?
Well, you know Mr. Junior make me one treadmill.
Make?
You know how he like tinker. Anyhow, he built this treadmill and he hook it up to one of them clothesline, which you could spin. You know the kind what I mean?
You mean the one would look like the upside down umbrella?
That's the one. He figure that since I was working out, I just power up one of them clothesline, so he hook it up direct to the treadmill.
Oh, so whilst you walking, clothes spinning. Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to you, eh? You know how heavy wet clothes is? But anyhow, I right there struggling to get the treadmill going. Slow. She start to go now. The treadmill going and the clothes spinning. This time now I building up speed. I running now. I running. The clothes spinning fast now.
You're flying now.
Yes, and so was the clothes. You would have thought he had enough sense to screw the thing down, eh?
The clothes going?
I see where they lying yet.
So what you gonna do?
Go back to Superwash where I should have gone in the first beginning.
Superwash. They washes and presses and cleans you 24/7.
Gran, it was good to see you, but we've got to get home.
Yep, we've got to let the dog out.
Speaking of dogs, you won't believe who I saw the other day. Who?
Honey.
Remember Anton, Jeanette's oldest boy? The one with the dogs.
With local claims managers, we pay your motor claims fast. We're like a goodbye at your granny's that doesn't take 30 minutes.
We really got to get going.
So soon?
CG Atlantic Agents. Insurance, health, pensions, life. Good like that. Nassau Insurance Brokers and Agents Limited, trading as CG Atlantic Agents.
Give me my pizza right away. Gotta move quick, no time to wait. No long lines inside the place. Little Caesars, I love the taste. Hot and ready. Just come now, you don't have to call, now you don't have to wait. Hot and ready. Large pepperoni, $7.99 every day. Hot and ready. Oh, yeah. Straight out the oven and freshly made. Hot and ready. Little Caesars is hot and ready. Little Caesars is. Get yours now at Oaksfield, Carmichael Road, and now East Street South, Pineapple Plaza. Pizza.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
If you're a business owner, get ready because the digital transformation is here. As a business owner, you now face the choice between innovation and extinction, but you don't have to get left behind. Join the click with Cable Bahamas Business Solutions and transform your office to get the competitive advantage. With innovative solutions like our fixed and mobile services, hosted PBX, Bahamas Cloud, and more, you can redefine your business. For more information on how you can join the click, contact the experts at businesssolutions@cablebahamas.com.
This traffic report.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us 422-4796. And now at 8:21, time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. We've got a prefrontal trough along with its trailing frontal boundary across the northwest Bahamas today, while a weakening ridge of high pressures over the remaining islands. Mariners should be alert for possible waterspout activity near showers and thunderstorms. Your forecast for today for the northwest Bahamas, partly cloudy to cloudy, humid, and hot with scattered showers and thunderstorms through tonight. For the central southeast Bahamas, partly sunny, hot and humid with isolated showers. Showers and thunderstorms increasing in the central Bahamas tonight, becoming fair, warm, and mild with an isolated shower across the southeast Bahamas. Temperature-wise, right now, 80 degrees in Nassau. Look for highs getting up to around 90 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 73 Fahrenheit, 23 Celsius. In your extended outlook, the cold front will become stationary across the central Bahamas and linger across the area through Sunday. So for tomorrow, Saturday, we're looking at partly cloudy to cloudy conditions with scattered showers and thunderstorms ahead and along the frontal boundary in the northwest and central Bahamas. Partly sunny and hot with isolated showers in the southeast Bahamas. Then for Sunday, for Mother's Day, look for partly cloudy and breezy conditions with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms near the frontal boundary. Partly sunny, hot, and breezy with isolated showers over remaining islands. That's your morning blend weather check brought to you by Bahamas First. What's first for you comes first for us. A 24 time for another check of your traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC Royal Bank. And in your real-time traffic, we are seeing a lot of issues near the six-legged roundabout, and we're being told some varying stories, but you may want to avoid that area if you can. That's from multiple directions, especially east on JFK Drive and north on Smile Butler Highway. And, in fact, people are being turned away on University Drive as well, it seems, but the traffic is building there as well. So keep that in mind. Avoid anything near the six-legged roundabout this morning. You're going to regret it if you don't have to be there. Okay. Elsewhere, Smile Butler Highway, heavy traffic from well south of Fire Trail Road, northbound, heading towards Tawny Williams Darling Highway, and that's backed up along Fire Trail as well. Gladstone Road also busy northbound this morning. Elsewhere, Blue Hill Road, as usual, just north of Soldier Road. The northbound lanes heading towards Independence Drive as well, westbound, heading towards that roundabout there. And traffic is building along Carmichael Road, eastbound to Blue Hill Road from well past Fire Trail to Blue Hill Road. So it's busy in that part of the island this morning. Elsewhere, we've got Eastern Road, not as heavy as it's been the past few days, but heavy near Foxhill Road westbound up to Johnson Road, and pockets along Prince Charles Drive at major intersections, and Foxhill Road northbound heading towards Prince Charles Drive, and Bernard Road westbound mainly, as there are a number of schools in the area. Village Road as well, near schools, and at the intersection, Bernard Road, Village Road, Soldier Road, Wolf Road. Mackey Street also seeing some issues as well. So that's what's happening out there in your real-time traffic. A busy morning ahead. That's your Morning Blend Traffic Alert brought to you by RBC Royal Bank.
Let's get a hotter party. Santa got to see. Poker stand behind the door and poke it out to me. What? Akaraka kona shamama conke got no bone. Akaraka kona shamama conke got no bone. Robbie like the conquered fish, we can't bother.
And we're back here with Morning Blend. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. We are talking with Dr. Nakia Forbes about the increase in conch poisoning we've been seeing over the past few weeks. All right, so before the break, you talked about it in raw conch. So that'd be conch salad and all those type things there. But what about prepared conch, cooked conch? Are you seeing the same issues there? Is the risk still there, Dr. Forbes?
Well, thank you, Dwight. So eating raw or undercooked seafood
And conch in our part of the world is what usually is associated with this type of gastroenteritis. So while it is common with raw conch, it can also happen if the conch is undercooked. And it has to get to the proper temperature internally for the bacteria to be killed. And that temperature is about 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 minute. So you have to cook it properly.
Okay, so generally conch chowder, stewed conch, perhaps not going to be an issue for you. But we have been hearing people say they had a bad batch of conch fritters, but maybe that's dipping into the batter, and you can see why perhaps the conch didn't really get cooked, I guess.
So let's talk about that. The bacteria will be on the conch. It can also contaminate the other ingredients. So it would be in the batter of the conch fritter batter. If that sits out for a long time, it's going to proliferate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you cook it, if it doesn't get to that appropriate temperature for the required time, the bacteria will still be alive, and it can then cause food poisoning. Similarly, if you don't eat it right away, it can proliferate and cause food poisoning. So it has to be cooked properly.
Mm-hmm.
Cooked conch is safer than raw conch.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the symptoms earlier, but let's go through those again. How do you know that it is, and how soon after you've had the bad conch will you start to experience them?
Great question. So it's usually about 17 hours after eating it, but it could be up to a day or more after eating it. And some of the symptoms are nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, and diarrhea. There can even be bloody stools. And that's what we see in the case of gastroenteritis. But there are people who are vulnerable, for example, elderly people or pregnant women that could have more severe disease, and they can feel very weak. They can have fevers, they can get dehydrated. It can also go into the bloodstream and cause something called a bacteremia. They'll feel very, very sick. This can also cause wound infections, but more commonly, because conch salad is a delicacy and we eat so much raw conch, more commonly we see gastroenteritis here in the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, lots of different things we've been hearing over the years about how soon after you experience conch poisoning are you able to eat conch again. What is the truth? What separates the myth from the facts?
So the reason people get sick in conch poisoning, it's a seafood-related gastroenteritis. And so to get sick, you are actually ingesting the bacteria, and that's causing a reaction and causing all of those symptoms, the vomiting and diarrhea. And so it's not a hypersensitivity reaction or an allergic reaction. So once you've gotten over that, you could eat conch again, but the same rules apply. Cooked conch is safer than raw conch. And if you cook it, it has to be at the appropriate temperature because you could certainly get it again.
Could that be like persons experiencing, I think it's called like a sympathetic reaction, or like their body just saying, oh, the last time I had this, it was a problem. And so they might feel queasy if they eat it too soon immediately after, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're exposed to it?
Not probably. So the reason people get sick is because of the actual bacteria and what the bacteria does to their gastrointestinal system.
All right. So, Stephen? Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So there's some people online who are saying that this is simply Nassau people and our dirty water, because they're not having any issues in Abaco, and their water is equally as warm as ours. Is there anything you'd say to address that?
Yeah, I really would like to address that. So it's important to stress that this bacteria, it's usually present in marine waters, and it doesn't imply sewage contamination, as in the case of other bacteria like Salmonella or E. coli. But there's a little bit more to this story. It is going to proliferate. The bacteria is going to proliferate in warm, shallow conditions. But there are things that can cause it to proliferate and be more of a problem. So when the conch is harvested, it could be on the conch, but if you keep it out at ambient temperatures, if you keep it in warm temperatures, like out on the stall or in shallow buckets or containers or a shallow amount of salt water, that organism is going to proliferate a whole lot. And it can cross-contaminate foods like on the cutting board or if it touches other foods in the vegetables. And if you make a salad and it's sitting there, a lot of it is going to be in there, but the longer it's out, it's going to proliferate. And so the likelihood is with the high consumption of this and the increase of the number of people consuming it, especially in the weather, that is where you can see a problem. And so there are cases that can pop up. And so there are a number of factors that can contribute to this. So like I said, it's also how it's handled. And there could be differences in how it's handled. And I do want to talk about that. So could I just say briefly, there are some key things that one must keep in mind in an effort to reduce the chance of getting sick from this particular kind of seafood associated gastroenteritis.
Right.
So,
I was going to ask you about that anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want us to run out of time, and sometimes we do as we get into conversation. So cooked conch is definitely safer than raw conch at certain times of the year, but you have to keep that in mind. So the shellfish has to be cooked to a safe internal temperature. You also have to follow proper safe handling practices when preparing and cooking the shellfish. Wash hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and warm water before and after handling the shellfish. And always clean and properly sanitize any cutting boards, counters, kitchen surfaces, knives, and utensils used to prepare the raw shellfish. When you are rinsing the shellfish, you shouldn't really rinse that in salt water because remember the organism is in the salt water. Use only drinking quality water for rinsing shellfish. When I say that, that's not a standalone. If you do that, it's not going to necessarily stop you from getting conch poisoning. You should eat cooked shellfish right away and refrigerate the leftovers. And always keep raw and cooked shellfish separate. And if you've been diagnosed with this infection, you want to not cook for people for a short period of time. Now, there are some interesting points as it relates to this organism. So like I said, it can cause other seafood-related illnesses in different parts of the world where there's a big oyster harvest and people eat a lot of oysters. This organism can contaminate the oysters, for example, in Canada and some of those other coastal areas in the United States. And in Australia, mussels had been implicated. Now, for example, in some places like Canada, there are actually areas where it's recommended that the seafood is harvested from these safe areas because, you know, it is possible to determine if there is a proliferation and do water samples and so on. And so there could be a reason why conch harvested from one part versus another part may not be contaminated. To your point about
so the people in Abaco or from the various family islands that are saying that this is a New Providence issue there could be some validity to their point.
Well, what I'll say is this. It's more likely in warmer, shallow conditions. And so it is possible that there are places you can harvest it and it may not be as much of a problem. Well, how do you predict that in warm conditions? It's not an across-the-board foolproof method. So it can happen in other places.
All right. So, Dr. Forrest, my question is, I hear you saying, like, don't wash the conch inside salt water and wash your hands for 20 seconds. And I feel like these are things that I heard from when I was a child. I remember the Ministry of Health had a campaign, like I must have been 9 or 10, the Monkey Man on ZNS saying, you can't wash conch in salt water. It'd have to be fresh water to prevent this sort of thing. Is there an ongoing, I know that there is something happening now in terms of like a warning or to like a caution to be concerned about how to handle and stuff, but is there an ongoing thing for all persons who might work inside the industry where they handle raw seafood, like a guideline or like safety protocols that they're supposed to follow, or is there like a certification that we can know this person has proper training in how to handle food preparation for the public? Is there something that we should be looking out for, or is it simply, unless you're making the food yourself, it's at your own risk?
That's a great question, Mr. Hanno. So across the board, food handlers, vendors, people who sell food should be certified in proper food handling procedures and techniques. Now, there is an important point as it relates to conch poisoning. So in that list of things that I mentioned to reduce the chance of this happening, including safe handling of conch, you don't want it to sit out at hot temperatures for long periods. You don't want to store it in a shallow container for long with a bunch of salt water. The bacteria will proliferate. If it's on the conch, it can get on your hands. You can cross-contaminate other foods. The cutting boards can get contaminated. So can the knives. And so it could be easy for the whole batches of everything to be contaminated if there's no
one bad conch
in between. That's very important. That will increase the chance of getting this seafood-related illness. That's cross-contamination of food. So healthy, safe food handling is an important point. But raw conch at this time, you have to know that if you're eating raw conch, you have an increased risk of getting this seafood-related gastroenteritis or conch poisoning. And so what I'm saying is, it's in the water, it's on the conch. So you could handle it very well and properly, but that it will still be on the conch at certain times of the year or in the appropriate conditions. Because the bacteria is naturally in the water. Even if you did everything right with the food handling, it would still be on the conch. So, for example, in places where oysters are and other seafood is a delicacy and eaten a lot, they've looked at how they can kill this bacteria on the seafood. So freezing helps, cooking, and so does high hydrostatic pressure and some other treatments. But we know that conch salad, well, it's raw, right? And it's delicious when it's raw. And so doing those things, freezing and so on, changes the characteristics of how the dish tastes, right? So it's more than just handling it safely. That's very, very important. But even if you do that, if the bacteria is on the conch, you will still get sick.
This sounds like an argument for a conch season, if anything. But the last thing I want to ask you is, does this then, because you say it also could affect other mollusks, should we be also concerned about not only other shellfish, but things like whelks, which are similarly mollusks that some people eat raw? Should we be concerned about consuming those in the raw state?
Yes. So eating raw seafood, when Vibrio parahemolyticus is around, that's the name of the bacteria, is associated with an increased risk of getting food poisoning, gastroenteritis.
Wow. So we've got somebody asking here, does it matter at all? They have their patented, so they say a cleaning solution, a little bit of bleach and whatever, that it doesn't matter at all. That won't be able to effectively, if the conch has it, that's that. Or does it matter what you clean it?
That's the cleaning in between the preparations.
Well, they're saying they clean their conch with that. I don't know. Does that make a difference?
It's not really going to make a difference, right? Because it's good that the surfaces would be clean. But if it's on the conch, so this is what happens. It's on the conch because it's in the salt water. It's in the sea. When you take it out of the water, you put it down in a little container to keep it alive in salt water. That bacteria a lot of it is reproducing. There's going to be a lot of it on there. So if you take it out and your preparatory surface, the counter, the cutting board, the knife.
I think they're saying they douse it in a cleaning solution.
They actually are dipping the conch in the bleach and water.
I don't know that you should be cleaning food that you're going to eat usually. That's probably...
It's more dangerous than possibly Yeah. Okay. So again, if you have how long do you think you can get over it? This is, does it ever get very serious here? Is it like other seafood poisoning, or relatively everybody will be fine after a few days? Is that usually how it is, or can it get very serious?
No, it can get very serious. And so most people will have gastroenteritis. And that's what we typically call food poisoning. So they'll have diarrhea, abdominal cramps, nausea, vomiting. And the duration of illness is about the median duration, the middle period of how long people stay sick is about 3 days, but it can range from 8 hours to 12 days, right? I suppose it depends on things about the person who ate it and about how much they ate. But there are other problems. So it can get into the bloodstream and cause people to get very, very sick. And so this is particularly true in people who have underlying medical problems. For example, if you have liver disease, they say the elderly and pregnant women probably should just really stay away from these raw, undercooked seafood at certain times of the year, or if it's around, because it can cause a more severe manifestation.
I feel like pregnant women aren't supposed to be eating raw seafood as a general rule.
Yeah, that is a general rule.
So, but I mean, I guess it is important also to doubly state it, just like how you have to be like, you guys, I know the French drink 1 glass of wine, but you shouldn't be drinking 3 Guinness if you're pregnant.
Yeah, and there's a recommendation like raw seafood and sushi and there are other foods that probably is better that you don't eat.
Yeah, stay away from that. All right, so we only have a few minute left. But what is your advice to people who will say, fine, I will avoid raw conch for now, but I can't do it forever? What's safe to remember about when to eat and when not to eat it? Are there any rules, anything you recommend?
I know what you're talking about, because you've always said that you don't eat it in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this kind of wives' tale that in some places that you wouldn't eat it in months that don't have an R in it because it's hotter then. But that doesn't work these days because of global warming.
Oh, boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because September is pretty hot around here. September is very hot.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah.
So the truth of the matter is this can happen at many other times of the year, but it's more common in particularly warm conditions. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's important that we pay attention to these things, because you actually could look out for it in terms of food agencies or health agencies. Some places actually test the water for it on a regular basis to see if it's out there. For example, large oyster economies, so that they can take the appropriate steps and know if it's not a safe time to harvest it, for example. Mm-hmm. And so you really ought to be careful. So when you hear that this is going around, you just do have to keep in mind that you have an increased risk of getting this if you eat raw and undercooked seafood.
Absolutely. Dr. Nakia Forbes, always a pleasure. Refreshing that we didn't talk about that other thing today, but I'm sure next time. But thank you so much for being with us this morning. Really appreciate it. Hope people are listening to what you have to say.
Thank you for inviting me. Always a pleasure to be here with you. Take care.
All right, we're going to take a break and be back. The Salvation Army celebrating a major milestone. They'll tell us all about that after we get back. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
I went to a place the other day to get myself some sauce. Me choose some bone.
Gran, it was good to see you, but we've got to get home.
Yep, we've got to let the dog out.
Speaking of dogs, you won't believe who I saw the other day.
Who?
Honey.
Remember Anton, Jeanette's oldest boy, the one with the dogs?
With local claims managers, we pay your motor claims fast. We're like a goodbye at your granny's that doesn't take 30 minutes.
We really got to get going.
So soon?
CG Atlantic Agents. Insurance, health, pensions, life. Good like that. Nassau Insurance Brokers and Agents Limited, trading as CG Atlantic Agents.
Roaming just got easier. Say hello to more with our new Liberty Prime plan. With more minutes, more texts, and more data to do the things you love right here at home and even when you travel. With the all-new Liberty Prime, Liberty Premium, and Liberty Elite, you've got one less worry. Roam again. Alive. Believe in best. Believe in best.
Go cashless with CIBC First Caribbean. Pay your credit card via the ABM. Did you know that you can pay your CIBC First Caribbean credit card bill at our in-branch ABMs, even if you don't have an account with us? Yes, you can. Simply visit your nearest in-branch ABM today and follow the prompts. Visit CIBCFCIB.com to learn more today. Go cashless with CIBC First Caribbean.
Imagine. That's where every advancement begins, with an idea that things can be different, better. Now, imagine a world where your entertainment experience was all about you, your style, your show, at your budget. At Rev, that's what we've imagined. To join the conversation and learn more about the future of Rev TV, visit us at rev.bs/imagine.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAO, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAO, growing wealth for future generations.
The best place to get a new iPhone is at PTC. Make the iPhone 12 mini yours for just $199. That's big savings to go with our sweet postpaid value of unlimited local calls, international minutes, roaming data and minutes, plus all the data you need. Stream, share, and stay connected on the best LTE network when you switch to BTC. Visit a store to sign up today and get the iPhone 12 mini for just $199. Conditions apply.
There's only one way to have a better morning. How? Start your mornings the best way with our 2 for $6 breakfast sandwiches at Wendy's. For a limited time, choose any 2 of your favorite breakfast sandwiches, including the fresh Strachan sack muffin, honey buttermilk chicken biscuit, double sausage muffin, or the sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. Wash it all down with our cold brew shake or coffee. Better mornings always start at Wendy's. Wendy's, different inside and out. Excludes airport locations.
Cash is what we have been using for generations, but it's no longer the only way to pay or receive money. That is great news for business owners. I'm Lasanya Mizik, Managing Director at RBC Royal Bank, encouraging you to find out how going cashless can benefit your business with faster transactions and settlements, better cash flow management, plus reduce risk of theft. Learn more at rbc.com/Caribbean/go cashless. RBC Royal Bank. Banking reimagined.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Try not to sing out of key. Oh, baby, how all I need is my brother. I say I'm gonna get high. What do I do?
We are back here with the Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna and the Salvation Army of the Bahamas celebrating a major milestone this year. Here to tell us all about this, we're very pleased to welcome back to the show Major Clarence Ingram and Melanese Coakley. Welcome back, and happy anniversary.
Well, thank you. Morning.
Good morning.
All right, so this is a big one. 90?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
This is 90 years. It was in May 1931 that the the first folks from the Salvation Army arrived in the Bahamas.
My goodness. Okay, so tell us about that how that came to be, and what was the need at the time, why it happened.
Well, originally an officer from London, England, Colonel Mary Booth, was visiting the Caribbean. She had visited Bermuda, and her plus two more officers came to Nassau in May 1931, and they were very well received here by government officials and the police department. And when she got off the boat and saw how things were, she said, "We can do some work here. We can help out." And it sort of began from there. Colonel Booth left, but she left one of the officers from Bermuda to stay here to begin the work.
Wow. So tell us about that work and how that's changed over these 90 years.
Well, maybe Melanie can jump in here.
That work, it began with, of course, helping those most in need as the Salvation Army. No matter where you find us across the world in 131 countries, we meet the needs of the community. And so feeding was a challenge during 1931. Housing for children and women was also a challenge in 1931. And so the work began with a women's and children's emergency residence that was built in 1987. And then we also had centers open up in Freeport, Grand Bahama, Palmetto Point. The latest district has been in Turks and Caicos, which was in 2011. And as the work has grown in terms of feeding, the School for the Blind, the MOP workshop, we are always serving the community.
Wow, it's amazing.
Everywhere we go.
It's amazing. And some of those things you mentioned, the needs are still there. That hasn't changed at all, unfortunately. But thank goodness the Salvation Army is here. So you mentioned some of the other services. Let's talk more about that. Those are famous throughout the country, the Mop Factory, the School for the Blind. Let's talk about those and other initiatives that you have.
Well, yes, the Mop Factory is, yes, I would say, yes, famous, known for our quality products. The Mop Factory has a complement of visually impaired staff members along with 3 sighted members, but the mops are made by the visually impaired persons. They have been making mops for more than 70 years in the community. We are thankful for our patrons throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that see the quality and know of the work that helps to continue to give back to the Salvation Army through the Mop Factory. Also giving them employment and also supporting the programs of the Salvation Army. So you can always find them in your local food stores, wholesalers, patronizers. Mops are found on the Family Islands, in the schools. Just like I said, across the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, our mops can be found.
And renowned for the quality. People just will remark about that.
Quality is one of the things that persons are always pleased with, come seeking and inquiring how they can get them. And so it just speaks volumes in terms of the work that is done in the Mop Factory by those colleagues of ours that do the work every day.
Yeah, wow. And we, the School for the Blind as well. Tell us more about that. How long has that been in effect?
The School for the Blind has been about the same amount of time, 1947, I think. I may be a little bit off on the date, but more than 70 years, the School for the Blind would have been a part of the community. Of course, it would, throughout the last 90 years, it would have moved from different locations throughout Nassau. However, its final resting spot right now is here off Mackey Street through Ivanhoe Road. And we are always privileged to just watch the growth of the children through the School for the Blind, those that are academic and those that have become contributing citizens to the Bahamas.
Yeah. Now, we always talk with you all, especially around Christmas for the kettle drive, but we know last year was a challenge with COVID. Let's talk about that and the impact the pandemic is having on the Salvation Army in the Bahamas right now.
Well, go ahead, Major.
Sure. Well, the pandemic has changed a lot of what we do, but our ministry continues every day. It's just that we've had to adapt and do things differently. Of course, last year with the fundraising efforts with the Christmas kettles and things, it was a completely different circumstance, but we were able to raise the funds that we needed to help the people whom we normally help during the Christmas season. And our programs, the number of people that we help have probably gone up tenfold, maybe even 50-fold. It's just so many people that are coming on a regular basis that need the basics of food and clothing. And so some of the programs which we would have normally been maybe more to the forefront are a little bit less obvious these days. But for instance, our women's emergency shelter is still ongoing. The School for the Blind is still ongoing, although sometimes it ends up going online and sometimes it's in person, just like other schools. The Mop Factory never stopped at all. So the programs just keep going. We just have to adapt so that we can find ways to help the people.
Mm-hmm. Are there, or is there anything that we haven't done yet, haven't seen yet from the Salvation Army in the Bahamas that you're hoping to accomplish in the near future?
One of our long-term goals is, I think, to build another facility for people in needs, particularly families that are in need for longer term. Right now, we find that we can help women and children, but certainly when we get families with older children, our facilities right now are not appropriate for them. So we've been talking about with our advisory board how we might be able to find a facility somewhere and provide a place where families with older children in particular can find a place to stay on a temporary basis until they can get reestablished themselves in the community.
Yep. We have, yes, a caller who wants to say something. I hope this is something. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
A godly day to the universe along with you and your guest, and Stephen, big brother.
Yeah.
What I want to say, right, to the Salvation Army people. Now I'm physically blind. I was doing some studies to Lighthouse for the Blind in Miami, Florida, some years back, and I didn't finish. Things got rough with me. I came back home, and I went to the Salvation to the School for the Blind, right? Salvation Army School for the Blind, to finish some courses, right? And I was told that they does not assist grown-ups. They only cater to children. But they had made a broad statement saying School for the Blind. So I want them to, explain that for me, please.
Okay. All right, Brandon. Thanks a lot. All right. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
No problem. Our school, of course, is a school for basically from kindergarten to grade 12. And what we're doing is we're teaching the regular school program that you would find in the regular grade school throughout the Bahamas. But we're teaching it to blind children and adding some things for blind children, helping them to learn skills such as cooking and making their bed and navigating around the town and things like that. We have not in the past certainly expanded the program to include adult blind people. Certainly there is a need. We recognize that. We just don't really have the facilities or the personnel to do it at this time. But it's something that we should, again, take under further consideration, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So for if people want more information, if they want to help, if they want to volunteer, give us the ways that we can do that. What do we need to know? What's the information?
I think Melanie should jump in here.
If persons will volunteering, we have unfortunately cut back due to COVID-19. So many of the programs are managed by the staff only. which presents some challenges sometimes. However, just to make sure that we are safe and we keep those persons that we serve safe, we've decided to restrict the type of volunteering at this time. If persons are willing to assist, they can always make a donation financially online, bank-to-bank transfer. The details are there, SalvationArmyBahamas.org. Sometimes we have donors anonymously go to wholesalers, make a purchase, and they drop it off to us. We've had persons that have just stopped by and had some items that they wanted to donate to the programs, and we've gladly accepted. As Major has said, there has been an increase in need. The newer need that you're finding persons are still having to date, even though we're in 2021. Also realizing that persons are returning to work, however, it's not at a full-time capacity. So persons in that category are also seeking assistance. So definitely, we still do our lunch program every day. So food is one of those line items that is very costly. However, we are committed to the community and we do our best with the donations from our many donors who just call up sometimes and say, we hear your needs, and so we're here to support you. And we're so thankful for them for continuing to do that over the past 90 years.
Yeah. Okay, this is wonderful stuff. We hope you're on for many, many, many more years. Thank you both. And again, happy anniversary to Melanie Coakley and Major Clarence Ingram for the Salvation Army of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. Let's not forget them. And keep up the wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with Morning Blend Business. This morning, we are getting some analysis of the fiscal snapshot for the first 9 months of the fiscal year. Just what should we take away from what the government's telling us about our finances? We're going to get into that when we return, but stay tuned for the news. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
This is the Guardian News Network update on the hour. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlene Ferguson. Defiant in the face of criticism, Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly Don Saunders says he does not regret ordering PLP leader Philip Davis from the House and that he would do the same to any MP, including the Prime Minister, in a similar situation. He called his naming of Davis reasonable and fair, as he said he gave Davis opportunities to respect the chair, but that he chose not to. For his part, Davis called Saunders' actions clearly over the top. He told the Nassau Guardian he felt the Deputy Speaker was trying to silence the opposition as he would not allow he or Engliston MP Glenys Hannah Martin to speak. Davis argued the Speaker's job is to protect members and referee debates between members, but not get involved in the fray. And the Prime Minister is set to meet with advisors in the medical community before deciding on a possible extension of that state of emergency. It expires May 23rd. Attorney General Carl Bethel says government is determined to protect Bahamians during this pandemic, whether by extending that order or by possible amendments to pre-existing laws. That's what's making headlines at this hour. Stay with us. AP Update is next.
Boy, why you look so mashed up like clothes at the washer?
No, boy, just a hard day, boy.
Hard day? What happened? The breakfast lady ran out of tuna and gritty.
We need to start joking about everything, you know. This serious, boy. This real serious, boy.
Boy, what's serious? Tell me.
All right, well, today, boss gave us, boy, one big contract. And nobody else get a chance and nobody say nothing.
Boy, you know that ain't right. You know government contracts ain't supposed to go that way.
Yeah, but nobody's saying nothing. Boss man just tell people to sign the papers. Then he send me to meet his boy downtown and collect this envelope.
You need to tell somebody. You need to become a whistleblower.
You know I's a real man, but I never blow no whistle. I be drunk all my life and drunk, you know.
No way. A whistleblower is someone who tells people what they see when they see something wrong happening at work.
But I ain't no whistleblower, and I ain't no snitch. I still white there, you know.
But ain't nobody can know it's you. All you gotta do is call Crime Stoppers, or you could text them from inside the Croc Crime Bahamas app. They don't ask about you, and your call goes straight through to Miami, so nobody know you is. And if you text, your message get mixed up like Kong Salad.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau, or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands. Hello, sir. Your credit card bill is due. Hello, sir. It's time for your monthly loan payment. Tired of creditors pounding at your door? Sign up for a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank and consolidate your debt into one low monthly payment. What's more, you'll also earn interest on a built-in savings account. The pandemic has curbed many freedoms, but at Fidelity, our focus is to help regain your financial freedom. Visit a branch or speak to Fidelity Bank at 356-7764. COVID safety measures in place at all branches. Fidelity, we're good for you.
This traffic report is brought to you by Shield Insurance and Prudential Loss Adjusters.
Final look at traffic this morning, and the hot conversation has to be the total disruption of the southwest region of the island this morning. JFK between Prospect Ridge and the six-leg roundabout, especially on the east lane, has been in a constant traffic buildup from very early this morning. The entire region and the arteries of street networks have all been affected. No need to use anywhere in that area for anything else but attending the event at BDC. The traffic jams are reverberating all the way back to the Tony's Million Dollar and Samala Buffalo roundabout. The west lane from JFK into that circle, that's stacked. Samala Buffalo Highway dual lane stacked in a slow ride trying to get out of there. No need to continue on a north trend through the sports center to try and get a ride out. You won't get through. And it's likely going to be longer than the usual 30 minutes or so to clear the area this morning. So if you're living from the southwest, be prepared for a lengthy traffic line all the way in. West Bay no longer an alternate route. It also is laden down with heavy traffic from the west bend all the way into the city. And Carmichael Road down in the south area, laden with traffic. Still slow getting over the hill at Blue Hill Road into that Tony's Million Dollar roundabout below. Fortunately, the only resemblance of normalcy this morning are the inner city streets, East Street from the south, and the eastern end of New Providence. This National Traffic Report this hour being brought to you by the folks over at Garden Eden, where you can enjoy the best boiling stew on the island. Delicious Bahamian breakfast every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning, served with grits or Johnny cake. Today, peas and grits is on the menu for lunch. Call them at 819-5574 for directions and details on this Mother's Day Lobster and Salmon Weekend Special. That's 819-5574. With you around the sky, look at traffic in real time. I'm VANN.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be. AP Washington correspondent Sagar Magani on the surprise unemployment numbers.
This is not what analysts predicted. The economy added 266,000 jobs last month, ordinarily a strong gain, but nowhere near the million many economists had forecast. The unemployment rate ticked up from 6 to 6.1%. Some employers might have hired more workers if they could find them. Some businesses, especially restaurants, have complained the recovery is happening so fast there aren't enough people to fill openings.
Most economists expect job growth to strengthen as more Americans get COVID shots and trillions in government money spreads through the economy. Oxford Economics predicts that 8 million jobs will be added this year, reducing the unemployment rate to a low 4.3% by year's end. I'm Rita Foley.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Friday, May 7th, 2021. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. And this morning we are going to be looking at the fiscal snapshot and report on budgetary performance from the government for the first 9 months of the fiscal year. What the numbers say to our analysts is going to be interesting to hear what they have to say. That's coming up. But first, it's time for your morning business report brought to you by CFAL. In your morning business report, as the use of technology to complete money transactions rises, so have the instances of fraud. That's according to the Central Bank of the Bahamas, which yesterday revealed that more than $5 million worth of fraud instances were reported by commercial banks. The central bank's 2020 payments survey shows that there were 3,317 cases of check, debit, and credit card fraud cases processed by commercial banks. The majority of the fraud, 68.6%, involving debit card transactions that totaled about $900,000. According to the Central Bank's 2020 annual report, credit card fraud represents 29.8% of the total cases for a corresponding value of $1 million, or 19.9% of the total value. As the usage continues to diminish, the check fraud cases represented a marginal 1.6% of all reported instances, but the associated value was almost two-thirds of the corresponding total, $3.2 million. The survey also revealing that 95.9% of fraudulent cases were reported in New Providence, where the majority of bank customers reside. The rise in payment fraud also coming as the volume of electronic payments throughout the country and the Bahamas Interbank Settlement System, real-time gross settlement system, increased by 55.7% for a total of 213,025 transactions last year, valued at $45.5 billion. And in 2020, the Bahamas automated clearinghouse payments, which are processed in accordance with the globally accepted National Automated Clearinghouse Association format, also trended upward. More specifically, the volume of these transactions rose by 0.7% to 3.2 million, while the corresponding value increased by 13.6% to 4.2 billion. You can read more about this in today's Guardian business section. The restrictions placed on foreign exchange outflows by the central bank at the onset of the COVID-19 economic crisis resulted in resident investments through the investment currency market being slashed by more than 40%. In May 2020, the bank suspended residents' access to foreign exchange for portfolio purchases in the ICM and the Bahamas Depository Receipts Program, approvals for commercial banks' remittance of dividend payments abroad were also suspended. According to the just-released Central Bank Annual Report and Statement of Accounts for 2020, these measures saved up to an estimated $400 million in claims on reserves. And the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has released instructions for cruise lines to navigate what should be the final hurdle before they get the green light to sail from U.S. ports once again. The next two phases of the framework for conditional sailing order for cruise lines requires them to conduct simulated voyages with volunteer passengers before they can move to restricted sailings with paying passengers. The CDC is calling for cruise ship operators to request approval to conduct simulated voyages at least 30 days before the sail date. The duration of those cruises are expected to be between 2 to 7 days. According to the CDC, with the issuance of these next two phases, cruise ship operators now have all the necessary requirements and recommendations they need to start simulated voyages before resuming restricted passenger voyages and apply for COVID-19 conditional sailing certificates to begin sailing with restricted passenger voyages. Again, details on these stories in today's Guardian business section. Overseas, booming sales in China helped propel German luxury car maker BMW to stronger profits for the first 3 months of the year, even as its home market, Germany, trailed the ongoing recovery in global car markets from the worst of the pandemic shutdowns. BMW says that its sales in China nearly doubled in the quarter to 230,120 vehicles, partly reflecting the shutdowns in early 2020 as China was hit first by the pandemic. Sales in the overall Asia region exceeded even pre-pandemic levels. Sales were up by double-digit percentages in most of Europe and in the U.S. An exception was the company's home market in Germany, where sales dropped 5%. The earnings underscored the German automakers, the auto industry's strong connections with China. Competitor Volkswagen saying Wednesday that it recorded a 61% increase in first quarter unit sales there, helping it sharply increase profits. And U.S. employers adding just about 266,000 jobs in April as hiring slowed down a bit. America's employers adding that last month sharply lower than in March, and a sign that some businesses are struggling to find enough workers as the economic recovery strengthens. With viral cases declining and states and localities easing restrictions, businesses have added jobs for 4 straight months, according to the Labor Department. Still, the unemployment rate ticked up to 6.1% from 6% in March. At the same time, optimism about the economic recovery is growing. Many Americans are apparently flush with cash after having received $1,400 in federal relief checks, along with savings they've built up after cutting back on travel, entertainment, and dining out over the past year. Millions of consumers have begun spending their extra cash on restaurant meals, airline tickets, road trips, and new cars and homes. Closer to home, in your Market Watch, recapping trading on the BISX. From Thursday, market movers Finco moving 2,000 shares, closing unchanged at $8.19. Consolidated Water up 6 cents, closing at $2.38. Emira Incorporated up 18 cents, closing at $11.25. The BISX All-Share Index closing at 1,954.24, up 0.19. That's your Market Watch, and that is your morning business report brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations. You are listening to Morning Blend Business, brought to you in part by Cash and Go. In just a few short weeks, you'll be able to transfer money internationally with MoneyGram in the Cash and Go mobile wallet. You asked for it, and now we're making it a reality. Stay tuned for international money transfer in the Cash and Go mobile wallet. Download it today, Cash and Go.
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAL, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
Cash and Go is now offering Cash Now loans in our mobile wallet. If you would like to sign up for a loan, simply log into your digital wallet, press the Cash Now button on the home screen, complete the application and upload your documents in-app. With a maximum 48-hour turnaround. Sign up today.
You can do it at Cash and Go. Pay all your bills at Cash and Go. Send your money from Cash and Go. Top up your minutes. Cash and Go. Pay insurance at Cash and Go. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's at Cash and Go.
Boy, you know what's going down tomorrow?
Nobody, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school. He could do Junior in.
For what?
Boy, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know Junior don't back down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you want?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Pen. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody? I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Wait, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, how many boys coming for me next?
All right, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stoppers. You could report what you know, and nobody gotta know it's you.
So how do I avoid?
All you gotta do is call them, or you text them through the Croc Crime Bahamas app, and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info, and when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the call go directly to Miami, and they don't ask nothing about you. Then you can get the pen from them, and they can claim a reward later using that same pen.
Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you're saying.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Everybody hands up in the air. Who that? Sing in the building. Everybody hands up in the air. Let's go. Hey, get money. Hey, get money. Hey, get money. Hey, get money. Everyone wants money. Everyone needs money. It's all about money.
Welcome back to Morning Blend Business here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. And this morning we are talking about the fiscal snapshot and report and budgetary performance report that the Ministry of Finance put out this week. It's the 9-month snapshot of the fiscal performance of this year. And here to give us their analysis on this, we're very pleased to welcome back to the show, financial analyst Hubert Edwards and economist Rupert Pinder. Gentlemen, great to have you with us.
A pleasure to be here. Thanks. Thanks, Dwight.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
So the big headlines this week: the deficit nearing $900 million, the government borrowing $2.3 billion, and declines in VAT and other taxes. Let's get your overview before we delve deeper into what we are seeing and what we should take away from it. But give us your overview on what we're seeing so far for the first 9 months. Anything surprising there? I think people expected most of this, but let's talk about it.
Let me take it first. So I think this is the position that we're at is pretty pedestrian in terms of what was anticipated. We know that the country is really in a interesting state. I think the economy right now is at a point where there is uncertainty around the length of the pandemic, and the fiscal fundamentals are certainly off kilter. And so it wasn't anything unexpected. I do believe, though, as you look into the discussion and the discourse around the output, that at this point in time, I just believe that there should be a shift in the conversation. We need to be having a little bit more cautious conversation. I know and I appreciate the fact that the government will seek to put this in the most positive light, but from my perspective, I think there is, very little options out there, but the conversation needs to shift slightly. We are not currently in a good place overall.
All right, we're going to get back to what you mean exactly, Hubert, in just a bit. Rupert, let's just hear what your overview assessment is.
Well, just a couple of things. Yeah, I guess the report, as I see it, in terms of the snapshots, I think it's more indicative than anything else. I mean, it's indicative because bearing in mind, we tend to do a lot of the analysis on the fiscal snapshot, but I think it's important to bear in mind, and I don't want to get too technical, but it's important to bear in mind that there's always a lag in government expenditures. So it's done on a cash basis. And what that really means here is that expenditures are recognized when there's actually a cash outlay. And so to that extent, sometimes you really don't get to see a settling of the numbers until maybe shortly after the budget communication. So it's perhaps more indicative in terms of direction. So I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of it is really set in stone in my view, because it is really done. It's not done on an accrual basis, it's really done on a cash basis. And so I think that, that's important, I think, particularly for persons, in terms of wanting to do some deep analysis of the numbers. It's important to bear in mind that it's more indicative than really being in terms of actual, because it's done on a cash basis. Mm-hmm. But just in terms of what Hubert would have alluded to earlier, clearly it's, we are not in we're not in a good position. I mean, we can debate in terms of how we got there, but we are not in a very good position. Now, I've seen some stuff there with respect to the overall fiscal snapshot, in terms of the amount of money that would have been spent, in terms of the social safety net programs, in terms of the unemployment benefits and all that kind of good stuff. But the reality of it is that, we're not really doing a lot to really help people, which is obviously commendable and which is very much needed. But at the end of the day, what stood out for me is really in terms of our debt ratio, our debt relative to our overall income. And when you consider that, I think last year sometime, I think we would have knocked off about 15% of the economy in terms of overall loss. We're looking at a debt ratio of pretty close to 100%. And you have to also put that in the context that, we over the last decade or so, we haven't really found a way to really grow this economy in a very substantial way. So there are a lot of headwinds ahead, and it requires a lot of work. I think what is good for us is that the Bahamas, and I think we don't talk about it enough, and that the Bahamas is a very strong brand. And to the extent to which it has a very strong brand, we have to really look in terms of how we can leverage that in terms of foreign direct investment and other things. But we do have some structural problems to address.
Yeah. As you said, we've been struggling for a little while. We haven't grown the economy much, but that happened really quickly with the pandemic. How quickly we'll be able to get back on some surer footing, even if everybody does get back to work, those who've been furloughed and laid off this year, how quickly can we dig ourselves out of this, or is this going to be long-term damage to the economy?
Sorry, go ahead, Hubert.
Yeah, I would say, and I just want to make a point with that Rupert touched on, and I think it's an honest way to have the discussion. You have to be cautious about the numbers. The only thing that I would add to that in a different direction is that all these numbers are indicative. They're likely to be, in the end, worse than they currently are. They're likely to be more in terms of the output lagging. And so, analysis, therefore, puts you in a position where you may be able to take a little bit of a risk. In terms of timeline, we don't know. There's huge uncertainty. Here we are dealing with a global financial crisis powered by a health pandemic. And there are permutations which are coming forward, which are rising. And there's also something which is coming down the pipe, which I would refer to generally as, vaccine equity. We are dealing with a world today, as it currently stands, challenged with, the availability of the technology for producing vaccine right across the board. And we can see that there are going to be big countries which may largely be okay. And that is good because our markets are being seasoned and getting ready for persons to move. But the local markets are still going to be challenged. Right now, as we look across our own landscape, we do not yet have enough vaccine, or I haven't seen any indication of us having sufficient vaccine to deal with the local population. So that is going to loom large. Recovery is going to be tenuous. I believe that one of the things we do not take into consideration often enough is the productive capacity of individuals, as you would have mentioned, Dwight, who are either laid off or furloughed. Individuals who may have gotten into entrepreneurial endeavors, but they're spending their savings. They're spending that nest egg which was put aside for a rainy day. This is the rainy day, and the rainy day is very, very long. And so the extent to which we stay at this place of uncertainty, to the extent to which we stay at this place with not having significant critical mass of tourists and so on coming forward, it's going to be difficult going forward. We are going to be finding ourselves going deeper and deeper in a hole before we get out.
Rupert, you were saying?
I guess Hubert has, Hubert has said a lot in there. There's no question about it that, you are truly in a period of uncertainty. And to the extent to which you're in a period of uncertainty, I don't think anybody can realistically look at a crystal ball and say exactly, where you're going to be in terms of a year from now and so on and so forth. Right? I think the long and short of it, I think somebody will be telling a lie, so to speak, for lack of a better word, if they knew exactly in terms of where we will be, a year from now. I mean, because there's so many different variables, that would impact that. But what I would say here is that, it's interesting in terms of what is going on now. We tend to dissect the economy in terms of pre and post COVID, right? And to say, well, okay, how can we return back to normalcy? And normalcy from an economic standpoint in terms of how do we get back to some of those pre-COVID numbers in terms of GDP and growth and that sort of stuff. But one of the things to bear in mind is that even pre-COVID, we had significant challenges economically, to the extent to which we had very low growth rates and we had a spiraling debt problem, right? And this is even pre-COVID. So one of the things to bear in mind is that while we need to take it step by step, there's no question about that. We have to recognize and we unlike, I guess, the old Chinese proverb said, the journey of 1,000 miles, I guess, starts with a single step. While maybe the first goal is perhaps to get to those pre-COVID numbers, but ideally we need to do even better than that. And that's so clearly, I mean, there are some significant headwinds, but this should also be a time for us to look at the reset button. And I know we keep talking about reset button. So much of this become a cliche, but we have to look realistically about some of the problems that we're having within the economy so that we can put it on a better footing to achieve even stronger growth rates than what we would have achieved even pre-COVID. So, for example, one of the things here is that we do a lot in terms of foreign direct investment, but yet, on the other hand, I mean, nobody addressed in terms of what is the real value added for the economy. I mean, to the extent to which we give a lot by way of concessions and which erodes in terms of the overall revenue potential. Also, to the extent to which you give a lot of concession to allow for imported materials, imported skill set, again, which reduce in terms of the value added impact on the economy. And and there's something else that I'm also becoming very, very, very passionate about these days, because as both of you would know, I also lecture as well. And that is that we have a serious problem in terms of a skill gap in this country, in terms of education, right? And so even as we start to try to get things back to a level of normalcy, and of course, a lot of these things are really contingent on things that are external to the Bahamas in terms of, having an effective vaccine to be able to manage, the pandemic, to be able to manage in terms of the flow of visitors and that. So some of these things are really, some bits of it is also external to us. But nevertheless, there are certain things that are certainly within our purview. And one of the things that in purview, and I reiterate in terms of how we treat in terms of foreign direct investment, and I'm a big proponent in terms of attracting foreign direct investment, but we need to have a serious and hard conversation about education and the educational gap, because one of the things here is that we have an educational system, and let's call it for what it is, that is failing this country. And so we talk a lot about, we know that we have to grow the economy and that sort of stuff, but at the heart of all of that is education. I hear we talk a lot about, for example, to grow the economy, investment in infrastructure, and it all sounds very sexy. But one of the biggest investment in infrastructure is human capital. Human infrastructure in terms of investment in people is critical for your future growth. And so, there are, perhaps I'm throwing out a mixed bag, but there's a lot that we have to address. But we have structural problem at the same time in terms of managing some of the adverse effects in terms of the COVID-19.
Okay. That is a lot, definitely.
All right. So what, with the resources that we have, what would you like? What would you have preferred to see, or what would you like to see change, keeping in mind what you just said?
Is it, you mean in terms of what I've just said?
Yeah, in terms of education, in terms of, I guess, investing in, is it investing in the future? Is it investing in persons now, or what?
Yeah, well, one of the things here it is, and I guess like Dwight has said, I mean, I've just shown it a mixed bag, and I guess you can practically do a whole show just on education. But in my view, one of the things that we need to have a serious conversation about is that the Bahamas is a relatively rich country. And for a country, and I'm putting aside the pandemic, which obviously has had a knock-on effect in terms of GDP, has really knocked a lot of things off kilter. So let's just park that as an anomaly in this long road. Right. But even if you were to discount the pandemic, though significant as it is, for a country of ours with such a high per capita GDP, we ought to have greater performance in terms of in terms of education. If I'm not mistaken, just barely over 50% of students are perhaps graduating, and even those persons that are graduating. I mean, look at the feedback that you're getting from the business community in terms of the skills gap. Listen, just the other day I spoke with somebody who was working on a large large project, sponsored as also in terms of foreign direct investment. And when you talk about, for example, the amount of persons that are there, right, to fill certain positions which cannot be filled locally, that's not to say that you don't bring in some of the skills that are needed. But what it suggests, and this is at the time that you have rampant unemployment, right? And obviously there's a serious gap in terms of skill set. And so when you look at it in terms of what we spend on education on a per capita basis, and even relative to GDP, it's a very nice number, because I think I did the comparison some years ago. But then the question then becomes, is that the effectiveness of that spending, right? We have to ask ourselves, what are we spending it on? And telling me how you're going to put tablet in every child's hand is one thing. It's another thing to tell me in terms of what you're going to do to improve the processor, and the processor here being in terms of the brain of these individuals. Because it's one thing to click and clock. I teach all the time, and listen, there are lots of persons who are very, very, very proficient with these devices, but yet don't have the processing capacity. Wow. And so we need to have a rethink in terms of education. I've always been a big proponent in terms of investment, in terms of technical education. Mm. And but I don't want to get too much into that, because it's really supposed to have more of an economic.
That's several shows, and we do need to have that discussion. We do need to have that discussion.
Sorry.
No problem.
The position outlined by Rupert, obviously, no one can disagree. The risk we run, as we could take this conversation for days. I would just want to touch on it very broadly. Just to expand a point that he made, and it's fundamental, and it's very, very important that we understand that where we are today is a worsening, obviously impacted by the global financial crisis and the pandemic, but it's a worsening of where we were for a long time. The fundamental infrastructural issues of the country were and still exist. So we have issues around power or energy with BPL. We have issues, as Rupert mentioned, with education. We have a number of structural matters which need to be fixed in order for the country to be at a place where it has the productive energy which is going to be necessary to take us beyond the anemic 1 or less than 1% growth that we've been experiencing over the long while. One of the reasons why I would be I am concerned, or at this point in time, is the level of urgency and the cadence with which the remedial or seeming remedial actions are being put in place. We know that coming into the pandemic, there was a big push for work through the ERC, and we have not yet been, we are not being kept abreast of the development. Now the work may be taking place, but I think there need to be a better or more careful management of that. There need to be some level of a communication strategy to say, well, we had these recommendations, and this is where we are, and this is where we're moving. The other thing which concerns me very much, Dwight and Rupert alluded to this, is the level of debt. The level of debt, and based on my back of the envelope analysis where we are right now, with revenue coming in at about 70% of budget, and expenditure really matching previous years. So typically the country spend $2.5 to about $3 billion in expenditure, or somewhere. That's where the budget usually terminates. But we are down 30% on that on the revenue side. It really means that the projected deficit of $1.2 billion could balloon to 1.5 or more. It also therefore means that we're going to be borrowing more money. The side of it which bothers me the most is when you look at the proportion, historically the proportion of foreign debt to local debt, e-dollar debt, in the Bahamas, the local data has always been significantly more. We are seeing a closing in the gap between those two. And largely because we do not have revenue coming in. If we need to make significant borrowing, again, it is going to be, a reasonable portion must be by foreign currency. We heard the governor stated that in clear terms this week. And so the country is, in a way, getting to that critical mass in a negative way in terms of its fiscal status. And the question is, do we have the necessary wherewithal to dig ourselves out of this in the near future if we have not shown the discipline and the capacity and maybe even the competence to have fixed the structural issues around the economy in quote unquote good times? Will we be able to do that in these challenging times?
Well, that is a multi-million, billion-dollar question there. We're going to see if we can answer or get more answers after the break. Let's take that break now, and we'll be back with more on what you took away from what we're seeing so far in the snapshot. This is Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAL, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
Cash and Go is now offering Cash Now loans in our mobile wallet. If you would like to sign up for a loan, simply log into your digital wallet, press the Cash Now button on the home screen, complete the application and upload your documents in-app. With a maximum 48-hour turnaround. Sign up today.
You can do it at Cash and Go. Pay all your bills at Cash and Go. Send your money from Cash and Go. Top up your minutes. Cash and Go. Pay insurance at Cash and Go. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's at Cash and Go.
For the best jerk in the Bahamas, you must have balus, pork, fish, and chicken served with our delicious country-style sauce and authentic festivals. Balus, Nassau East South, call or WhatsApp 376-8951. Balus, the jerk with the soul of reggae and the spirit of Junkanoo. Balus jerk, traditional, slow-cooked to perfection. 376-8951. Get yours today.
Boy, you know what going down tomorrow?
No, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school. He could do Junior in.
For what?
Boy, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know Junior don't back down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you on?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Pen. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody? I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Boy, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, how many boys coming for me next?
Alright, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stoppers. You could report what you know, and nobody gotta know it's you.
So how did I boy?
All you gotta do is call them, or you text them through the Croc Crime Bahamas app, and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info, and when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the calls go directly to Miami, and they don't ask nothing about you. Then you can get the pen from them, and you can claim a reward later using that same pen. Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you're saying.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
In your final look at weather for this morning, we've got a severe weather warning now for portions of the northwest Bahamas. A thunderstorm warning in effect for Grand Bahama and Abaco, and that's in effect until 11 o'clock this morning. The Department of Meteorology is saying that their lightning detector radar and satellite imagery showing a line of showers and embedded thunderstorms associated with prefrontal activity moving southeastwards across the northwest, the extreme northwest Bahamas, Grand Bahama, and Abaco. Some of these thunderstorms will be severe at times, causing strong gusty winds, dangerous lightning, heavy downpours, hail, and possible waterspout or tornado activity. Localized flooding is expected as well in low-lying areas. We've been telling you about this for the past few days. Prefrontal trough, along with its trailing frontal boundary, across now the northwest Bahamas, while a weakening ridge of high pressure is over the remainder of the islands in the country. Mariners should be alert for possible waterspout activity in showers and thunderstorms. For today, for the northwest Bahamas, look for partly cloudy to cloudy, humid and hot conditions with scattered showers and thunderstorms through tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, partly sunny, hot and humid with isolated showers. Showers will be increasing over the central Bahamas through tonight, becoming fair and warm with isolated showers across the southeast Bahamas. Temperatures today getting up to around 90 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to 73 Fahrenheit, 23 Celsius. In your extended outlook, that cold front will become stationary across the central islands and linger across the area through Sunday. So for tomorrow, Saturday, partly cloudy to cloudy with scattered showers and thunderstorms ahead and along the frontal boundary. In the northwest and central Bahamas, partly sunny and hot with isolated showers in the southeast Bahamas. For Sunday, Mother's Day, look for partly cloudy and breezy conditions with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms near the frontal boundary, partly sunny, hot, and breezy with isolated showers over the rest of the country. That's your morning blend weather check. And we're back here with Morning Blend Business. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna on this Friday morning. We are talking with Hubert Edwards and Rupert Pinder about the economy so far. The snapshot, the fiscal snapshot for the first 9 months of the year, released by the Ministry of Finance this week, getting their analysis on this. So let's talk more about your takeaways from this, what we should take away with the increase in the deficit and the reduction in capital expenditure, the increase in the recurrent expenditure, and of course revenue and what we're seeing there, especially with the hits taken to VAT and excise taxes and other border taxes. Let's talk about it all. What does this mean? I know Rupert said earlier that, and Hubert I think he said it as well, that it may take a little while for us to get a true picture. But this is, as they said, a snapshot of what we're looking at so far. And it is expected that things may be actually worse when we get the full picture for the whole year. But what should we take away right now with what we've seen so far?
Just to, if I may jump in, and I guess we, both Hubert and I, we've said the same thing, but I think it's worth repeating, and that is that the numbers produced, I think, which obviously makes a very good discussion point, and I think that's good, is that they are indicative, right? So hope it perhaps tells you something maybe about direction, but they're not in terms of actual to the extent to which this stuff is done on a cash basis. Hubert went out on a limb to say that the numbers will actually be worse, and there's a strong likelihood of that. But there's something else that he had also said as well, and I just want to touch on that. I mean, the government had done a lot, I think, by way of the ERC in terms of the Economic Recovery Committee, in terms of looking at some measures in terms of the overall recovery. But one of the things, and I've said before, that I had a challenge with is that while a lot of work went into the report, it didn't establish in terms of KPIs, in terms of some measurable sort of indicators. So, for example, if somebody says, well, okay, we want to diversify the economy, we want to do this, we want to do that, and so on and so forth. When you start attaching numbers and start attaching timelines, etc., those are more things that people can hold on to and to measure in terms of your progress towards its overall goals in terms of recovery. And one of the things that I recognize is that looking at, in the case of Barbados, under the Mia Mottley's administration, one of the things that they did is that they had a similar sort of thing with respect to recovery, but they had in place a set of indicators. And so people knew, for example, okay, here were a set of things in terms of timelines. here was a set of objectives that were measurable, that you can actually hold people to in terms of, in terms of progress towards that overall goal. And so, some key takeaways for me is obviously one, to the extent to which the report is perhaps more indicative than actual. Secondly, to the extent to which when we talk about in terms of recovery and measures that we want to take, we have to have identifiable, measurable sort of objectives so that to keep everybody aligned. Thirdly, to recognize that there are significant headwinds, and these headwinds existed even prior to the pandemic. And fourthly, for me, and that is that a lot of the challenges that we have, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, there's still some positives. And one of the things here is that the Bahamas, in my view, is a very, very, very strong brand and remains a very strong brand, even in the face of the calamities, a lot of which obviously is externally imposed. I would just say this in 30 seconds. I watched a podcast last evening involving Tom Brady. Tom Brady just bought a $60 million yacht, and yet he's all over the podcast and all over the airwaves talking about leaving his mansion somewhere in South Florida and sailing the waters of the Bahamas and how beautiful it is and so on and so forth. But all of this is an indication in terms of how strong the brand is. So that's my 2 cents, Dwight.
Yeah, definitely. And I wouldn't want anyone to that we have been totally negative. If you look at the budget performance and you take quarter by quarter analysis, Q4 for 2020 and Q4 was slightly above 2020. Q4 was slightly above Q1 2021. You would have seen that revenue have ticked up from those low levels. So that is indicative of the fact that the performance, or at least there is life coming back into the economy in a serious way, in a serious way, because we were at a low around January, February this year, and certainly at the high point in December. Historically, those are low moments within the economy because of the way the economy works. But overall, we still have a number of headwinds that we are contend with. And I honestly believe that it is time now for the country as a whole to start actively thinking about where we are and actively accepting some of the issues that we're dealing with. Outside of this whole budget discussion, Dwight and other persons here, there is this lingering issue of the EU taxation, minimum taxation. The United States got involved. But right now, as a country, I don't think we have totally espoused a position to deal with that. These individuals are saying, well, by July 2021, we are going to make a position. We are going to take a position. That's a couple of months down the road, and we have not heard that. We have seen in the newspaper yesterday, Go made a pronouncement. I don't want to make it bigger than it actually is because, in my mind, it's an investment decision. If you buy government stock and you're not satisfied with it, then you sell it. At the end of the day, those were purchased because you have a bunch of cash and you don't have any place else to put it. But the fact of the matter is, historically, the Bahamas has always funded the government operation on the back of local bonds. If there is any level of disaffection in terms of persons taking up that bond, it could be disruptive to the financing mechanism of the country. And so we cannot discount any of that. So all I'm saying here is while there are important improvements that we're seeing, there are some fundamental headwinds that we need to deal with. And at a very, very important level, we must not ignore what happened or what was before COVID. We need to now start working on fixing the structural issues, the structural deficiencies, the structural gap, including, as Rupert would have mentioned, looking at education, looking at the productivity of the workforce, and so on and so forth. If we are going to get to the place where we can have, growth rates of 3 and 4% in the future, which is what is needed for us to really move this economy forward.
So I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but basically we seem to be treading water, trying to just stay above drowning, but not really looking at getting to the shore in any way, or to solid ground. Is that what you're suggesting there?
In broad terms, we could come to that conclusion. Put differently, we are aware of some of the challenges, but I think we need to see greater urgency in moving towards the remedial action. It is important that we no longer, just try to kick the can down the road, and it doesn't matter which administration is going to be in power. If we keep kicking the can down the road and not fixing the issues that we're having, we're going to have problems. Now that COVID has made it a little bit more challenging, debt is at a high demand across the entire world. It therefore means it's going to cost us more to borrow. It therefore means that with the pandemic, our markets are going to be under pressure. We have a supply side in many instances and a demand side shock. Rupert is in a better position to talk about those things. And so we have right now really a conflagration, if you will, of so many potentially negative issues that we have to go about them in a very serious manner if we are going to come out at the other end of this whole crisis in a good footing.
Okay, question, Hubert. What is it that I hear what you're saying, and they all sound like not necessarily gloom and doom, but like we need to be very cautious as to where we're headed. But what can the average person on the road who's listening to you right now, who doesn't work in the financial services, who isn't in charge of making financial policy for the government, what can the average person do? Is there anything that the average person can do? Or are we more or less just staring at something happening?
No. The average person have to, one, take time to understand what's happening out there. Two, put themselves in a position to become their most productive self. So if you can learn something else, if you can engage in some sort of a entrepreneurial activity, no matter how small that is, then that's what you have to do. Because at the end of the day, the overall economy of the country is just a sum total of the individual economies of persons, of households. So the more individuals can grow and develop themselves, and that obviously need to be facilitated by the policies of the government. That's what the government is there for, to be facilitative and to create the canvas against which we can paint a bigger picture. So I would not want anyone to walk away with doom and gloom. Don't give up. Keep working on you. Keep working on your situation, and to put yourself in the best position to improve environment.
All right. So we have about a minute left. So if after the fourth quarter, the numbers are in, they don't look much better than this, it continues along the same path, what should be the step? What would you assume is happening? What must be the next step after that?
The numbers in the fourth quarter is not going to look any better. Rupert said I went out on a limb. I'm going out on that limb. They're not going to look much better. They're going to be consistent with what we're seeing here. What needs to be done is that we need to take all of the plans, the strategies, bring the collective genius of the country to bear, and start to work assiduously to fix these issues. Let's not just sit around and rely on tourists coming back. That is going to be a factor. That is going to be a bonus. But let's take our fate in our hands and start working like there's no tomorrow on the fundamental issues which we need to fix so that we can have a better environment for growth, so that we can put the country in a position where normal growth is way beyond the anemic level that we have experienced over the last 1 to 2 decades.
Rupert?
Well, I guess I pretty much echo the same sentiments in terms of Hubert there. I mean, the reality of the situation is that I think the question that was posed is that what happens in the event that the numbers tended to be worse than what is projected? The reality of the situation is that what it means is that we'll just increase the urgency of making some very, very, very tough decisions. And I say that there in terms of emphasis. I mean, clearly, clearly we're going to have to make some very, very tough decisions. And I think, and let's call it for what it is, I think that the delays in some cases, or I want to think in terms of making some of those tough decisions, may have to do in terms of a pending election. But I can tell you, once you, however you deal in terms of once you've gotten past that election cycle, some tough decisions are going to have to be made. And don't let nobody tell you otherwise.
All right, so 30
That's
seconds.
as
We only
long
have
as
30
possible.
seconds. Tough decisions means what? More taxes, or are you talking about cuts? Massive cuts, including.
I would say this to you, and again, I'm being like Hubert today, being brave and going on a limb. And when I say tough decisions, I'm talking about in terms of a combination thereof. I see the potential in terms of increased level of taxation, and two, in terms of significant expenditure cuts, because you can look around, there's so many areas of duplications, and that's a whole show within itself. So I think that there is significant headroom for expenditure cuts, and certainly you have to look in terms of your taxes.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So we're going to be paying close attention. This is going to be serious, but people have been saying that for a long time, that we needed to have those tough decisions made a while back. But this is definitely the chickens coming home to roost, as they say, right? Gentlemen, thank you so much. Rupert Pinder and Hubert Edwards, always a pleasure, and we will talk with you again very soon, I'm sure. Stephen Hanna, thank you. As always.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, to you all. Have a great weekend and happy Mother's Day to my mother and to all the mothers out there. Hope you have a wonderful day, Sunday. And we'll be back on Monday with more Morning Blend and Morning Blend Business right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan, have a great one. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green next.